the legendary Hollywood director. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401, The Profits of Chainsaw 2. Please subscribe and recommend. Saw 2. It was released on September 7th and will be released on October 13th. This film, which is favored by all film investors, has lived up to the market foundation established by the previous film. After more than a month of screening, it has given Lyman and Paramount Pictures a relatively satisfactory answer. Saw 2 cost nearly $35 million from filming to publicity and distribution, and from post-production to copy transportation. However, the domestic box office in the United States has won more than $73 million. It opened high and ended low. Although it is not very stable, it still draws an extremely good box office trend chart. Of course, if you really calculate it, it is just barely recovering the cost. But overseas and offline operations are pure profit. In this era, there are not many movies that can be supported by the Hollywood market alone every year. To be able to do this step is completely above the passing line. In addition, Paramount's publicity resources are quite powerful, and compared with a low-cost sequel production, the requirements cannot be set too high. There is also the word-of-mouth aspect of the film. This aspect involves the offline operation of the film. Although the type of film is still not popular with film critics, it is enough to maintain the excellence of the previous work among certain people to gain their support. Therefore, the score of Saw 2 is quite good. On the two most representative websites on the internet, the score of IMDb is 7.2, and the freshness of Rotten Tomatoes is still 67%. It is not rotten. No matter from which aspect, Paramount has released a film work above the standard. And with the cooperation agreement between Firefly Pictures and Paramount, it is undoubtedly time to share the cake. At the same time, Paramount also negotiated the first round of TV broadcast rights of Saw 2. At a price of $8 million, it signed a 5-year copyright contract with ABC TV. All peripheral income is closely related to Lyman's Firefly Pictures. At the box office, after deducting various taxes and fees, Paramount first received a total of more than 34 million North American box office shares from the theaters. As we all know, this part of the money is not a profit that can be shared. Paramount also has to take its own distribution commission, 10% of the North American box office, which is more than $7.3 million. Then there is a part of the publicity and marketing expenses shared by both parties, for which Paramount has to share more than $6 million. Then there is the copy and transportation loss, more than $3 million. So, Paramount has to take more than $16 million from the entire box office revenue. The remaining $18 million is Firefly's. But this is not the company's profit, because the main creative staff of the crew also needs some box office incentives. When the contract was signed, everyone had a similar basic salary plus bonus remuneration agreement. Although others did not have as high a commission as Paramount, the total amount added up to more than $5 million. In the end, less than $12 million fell into the company's pocket. Calculated in this way, the hard work of making a movie did not make as much as the distribution company. Of course, this is quite normal in the industry, but in fact this part is not the final total profit. Because the film and television copyright is the one that the producers take the lion's share. In Hollywood, the enrichment of the industry provides too many possibilities. Most Hollywood movies, if they can't make any money from the box office, such as Catwoman, which failed to make huge losses, still have dolls, figurines, and product licensing to bring in income. It is also a profitable way for offline markets such as DVDs to achieve higher returns. The emergence of the DVD era has, to some extent, saved some of Hollywood's big studios. The most typical one is Columbia Pictures. Relying on Spider-Man, it made a lot of money from the middle of the year to the end of the year, and its financial statements looked great. The same is true for Spider-Man 2 released this year. After the summer season ended, it immediately started to promote offline sales. A set of DVDs is divided into regular and deluxe versions. With a few posters and shooting highlights, it can be priced at $39. You know, the cost of burning a disc is less than 5 cents. If the cost is compressed, because of the large number of discs, a loss of 1% is high. This has led to Spider-Man 2 selling more than 5 million copies in just the first week, earning more than $120 million US. The sales of the previous film exceeded 10 million, earning more than 200 million. This is the sales in North America alone. Think about European countries such as the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. They are almost all pan-English cultural circles, and there is not much cultural exclusion. In today's era, the huge offline market can still support first-line blockbusters. This is also the foundation of Hollywood. Saw 2 has undoubtedly caught up with such an era. It won't take too long. With the further improvement of online video technology, DVD sales will decline rapidly. In mid-October, Paramount also officially launched the DVD of Saw 2 in the North American market. With large offline sites such as Blockbuster as the main sales carrier, a new round of money-making journey has begun. As for sales, although it is not as good as those high-grossing blockbusters, but the sales figures for 1 week are also gratifying. It easily sold more than 1.5 million copies and earned more than $21 million US. The price of Saw 2 is not as outrageous as Spider-Man. A disc with a poster only costs $13 US. However, this money needs to be paid to the underwriter as a channel fee of about 5% and a publicity and promotion fee of 10%. Then there are the profits of Firefly Pictures and Paramount. At this time, Firefly takes 70% and Paramount takes 30%. Compared with being exploited by all parties at the box office, the benefits brought by the offline market are more friendly to the producers. This is why some production companies would rather share all the box office and hold the copyright tightly. And this is a long-term business. It is normal to eat meat and drink soup for a few years in the DVD rental and sales market. What's more, in today's overseas market, the cumulative box office of Saw 2 has reached more than 30 million. Although the proportion of Europa films can get varies from country to country due to policies and tax issues, in general, after deducting publicity and promotion, the proportion of the share can account for about 45% of the overseas box office. This also includes a share from Firefly Pictures. Europa Films is still a very good partner. The markets of both parties are complementary. On October 22nd, after PricewaterhouseCoopers helped calculate the profit sharing, Paramount Pictures paid the first payment of $50 million US to Firefly Pictures in accordance with the agreement. The rest will be delivered in batches within 2 months. Chapter 402 Return. Subscription recommendation. Once the crew starts working, they rarely stop. Because Batman Begins had to finish filming before the new year, leaving time for post-production and scheduling for next year's summer vacation, director Nolan actually didn't have much time. Although it took more than a month to shoot, and almost half of the scenes were completed. But in the remaining month, they couldn't relax. After the crew members finished shooting in the UK, they immediately took a flight to Iceland. It took another 3 days to transport the equipment to the lake halfway up the mountain at the end of Highway 9. By late October, the climate in Iceland had become cold. The crew's location staff spent 500,000 yuan to find a large number of construction talents. 100,000 of them were used to build a large wooden house on the mountain, and the labor and material costs were all spent. The rest was all spent on the local government external relations agency. It ensured that the crew would get government support and approval to shoot a movie here. Although the crew didn't pay this money, it was not impossible to come to Iceland for filming, but the government would definitely not be too enthusiastic. Not to mention a director like Nolan who has not yet made his mark, even when Lyman was filming here, or internationally renowned directors like Spielberg and Cameron. They would encounter many local difficulties and unexpected situations when they went out to film. For example, if the local government asked you to promote their special attractions, cultural relics, etc., would you agree or not? Not to mention such political tasks. What if someone made trouble during filming, or the crew had a conflict with the locals? They can't always complain to the American police during filming. This kind of necessary arrangement, if something really happens, the local relevant departments will not sit idly by. Lemon stayed in the crew of Batman Begins for almost a week. When the filming got on track, He felt that there were no major problems, so he had the idea of leaving. He didn't have much work to do in the crew. He spent most of his time chatting with the actors, and chatting with Warner's producers. Chatting nonsense, dispelling some people's unnecessary thoughts. But it was indeed time to leave. Returning to Los Angeles, there were still a lot of things waiting for him. The post-production of New York trip has been completed long ago, and the release date is set for the Christmas season, which is less than a month away. As an investor and producer, I have to go back and take care of the publicity and release. In addition, there is the year-end award-winning work of $1 Million Baby, the post-production work of Daydreamer, the preview of the TV series Prison Break. It looks very busy. However, although there are many things, they have to be done one by one. The first one to bear the brunt is the TV series Prison Break. Click. James Wan clapped his hands, picked up the megaphone and said, "Okay, let's finish work early today. Everyone go home. I will contact you if there is anything." The director said, but there were not many shouts of joy from the actors, who just quietly packed up their things. After so many days of filming, everyone is somewhat happy. A group of marginal figures in the entertainment industry can have so many roles to play. For them who really want to be actors, it is easy to be happy. There is a taste of gain and loss. Why? Today's American TV series have a very mature set of market rules. If a few episodes are screened and there is no effect, it is likely to be cancelled. As an actor, how can you be too happy if a TV series that has already been approved is cancelled? This is what they worry about. In a year, a TV station can successfully broadcast less than 1/10 of the total number of TV series. In other words, after more than 10 TV series are screened, only 1 or 2 can be kept. Most of them are TV series that have 1 or 2 episodes and then end badly. However, this is a choice of the audience, and it is not the TV station's business. This is the advantage of separation of production and broadcasting. TV stations can spend very little money to determine the TV series with the greatest prospects and then buy them for broadcast. If it is self-produced and self-sold, whether it is a bad drama or a good drama, it will be in the pot, and there is not much room for choice. As the saying goes, the money has been spent, and it is a loss if it is not released. This is also the reason why many TV stations rarely see a high-quality TV series in a year before the separation of production and broadcasting. Of course, the situation inside is more complicated. For example, there are all kinds of messes such as corruption, power struggles, etc. However, James Wan does not have as many thoughts as the actors. As a film director, he came to make a TV series. It was completely ordered by Lyman. Otherwise, he would definitely not accept it. In later life, the only place where he dealt with TV stations was as a TV producer. Or it was because Warner paid too much and he wanted to make quick money. And because the first 2 films in the Saw series achieved good market results, James Wan suddenly lost his sense of direction. He didn't want to make a sequel of the same type, nor did he have a good creative idea to shoot a new movie. He wrote a lot of new scripts, but he couldn't even pass his own test. He thought it was not innovative enough, and he didn't dare to show it to Lyman. With this delay, more than a year passed, and he spent more time behind the scenes than as a director. However, he is also a person with a quick mind. He didn't have any good ideas, and he was not in a hurry. Trying to develop behind the scenes is still a good way. In the middle of the year, he followed Zack Snyder to tinker with New York trip. Lyman had seen the finished film and felt that it had great potential. It was a spark that came out of the collision of 2 excellent directors. Based on the story of Train to Busan, this film adds Zack Snyder's oil painting-like color style and James Wan's control of rhythm and scene atmosphere. The bloody shots are imaginatively turned into a canvas-like effect, with a unique violent aesthetic. Some shadows of Sparta can be vaguely seen, especially in the blurred, oil-painted, and magnified visual effects of the blood and flesh shots when the zombies bite. It's amazing. As for the rhythm, the original plot rhythm is actually excellent. James Wan gave more to the camera switching. With sharp and fast editing, the tension of the plot is expanded. In short, in Lyman's view, this movie is definitely better than the original. James Wan packed up his things and prepared to leave. After returning to Firefly Pictures, he immediately began to edit the materials of the 3rd episode. As for the pilot, even if Lyman thinks that Prison Break is likely to be successful, he has to come up with facts to convince the people at WBTV. Without data to support it, it is still a personal opinion after all. Chapter 403, Prison Break, Part 1. 2 days later, Lyman went to WBTV and met with the station director Andrew Hernandez again. This time, he came to sign a copyright contract for the authorized pilot broadcast of Prison Break. Pilot broadcast? The TV station also has to spend money to buy it. It is more about confirming continued cooperation after the pilot broadcast is successful. Generally speaking, the TV station, where the TV series is piloted, basically locks in the subsequent broadcast rights. The advance payment is more like a prepaid copyright fee before the cooperation. However, this money is not much. The first 3 episodes of Prison Break cost a total of more than $4 million. The money used by WBTV for the pilot broadcast must pay 60% to 70% of the equivalent remuneration to the crew. Industry regulations. So WBTV gave $2.7 million in advance. This means that both parties share the production risk, but the producer suffers a little more loss if the ratings of the pilot broadcast reach above the standard line. Note that the TV station's ratings statistics are collected by another news group. The results of this statistics are rarely concealed, and there is no case of TV stations concealing the report. Another point is that the ratings statistics do not include all the people who watch the TV station. Or it should be said that the most commonly used statistical interval for TV stations is called ADULS 18-49, abbreviated as AR18-49. The reason why it is listed separately is that the audience in this age group has the greatest desire to consume. Most of them have independent economic conditions and are also the group most favored by advertisers. The 5 major broadcasting and television networks are all supported by large advertisers. The amount of advertising fees determines the income of the series. Therefore, the ratings of AR18-49 are the statistical standard of the television industry, and it is also a direct reflection of the income of the series and whether it can be adopted by the TV station. For public stations, where advertising is life, the two are directly linked. As for cable TV stations, the reference value of the above description is not very large. Especially channels such as HBO and Showtime, which have almost no advertisements and survive entirely on the number of users who renew their subscriptions. They don't care whether there are viewers with consumption potential. Therefore, most of these cable stations are statistically total series subscription data and subsequent renewal data. For example, take WB and HBO for a comparison. Because of the different profit models of the two, WB's income depends on advertising fees. So for WB, ratings are its lifeblood, and it broadcasts what the audience likes, while for HBO, its income depends on audience subscriptions. So its mission is to do everything possible to make better dramas, to meet the audience's subscription needs. This leads to HBO generally not easily cutting a drama in half, nor will it infinitely fill a TV series and stretch it to ruin a drama, which is why there is a saying that HBO's products must be high quality. But what's interesting is that in terms of the revenue of each TV station, it is usually the 5 major public platforms that beat the paid platforms. In terms of pure TV network revenue, HBO, AMC and other channels may be higher than most TV stations, but in terms of turnover, there is no comparison at all. But when it comes to profits, HBO and other paid channels are the kings. As for the evaluation of the ratings, it can be roughly understood as follows. 1. AR18-49 data above 3.0 is for high quality, and renewal is absolutely worry-free. 2. AR18-49 above 2.0 is qualified, and the problem of renewal is not very big, but there is a certain risk of diving. 3. If it is around 1.5, the TV station should carefully refer to whether it is worth it. If the production cost of the TV series itself is very low, it is a low-cost comedy, and even if it is purchased, it will not cost much, then it will definitely be renewed. If the cost of purchasing the copyright is very high, it is not worth it, and it is very worrying. In addition, for some specific TV stations, such as CBS, which is known as the old people's station, the programs they broadcast tend to be particularly conservative. Some sensitive topics are almost not touched, such as LGBT, and the content lacks elements that are loved by younger audiences, such as youth idols, science fiction, or romance. They are all crime dramas and elderly dramas, such as Criminal Minds, Elementary, and How I Met Your Mother. The statistics of our 18-49 of this TV station are often below 1.5, but the national ratings are often as high as 3.0 or above. In short, it is very magical and different from common sense. Their TV series have their own estimates. In addition, the requirements of the TV stations at the bottom of the 5 majors, such as WB, are a little lower than the general ones. For example, the pilot contract signed by Andrew Hernandez and Lyman stipulates that Prison Break will be renewed, as long as the R18-49 ratings can exceed 1.3. The revenue plan divided by the two is a basic licensing fee plus the share of advertising fees plus most of the profits from DVD distribution. This is also the drama agreement of the general TV station contract. If the renewal is successful, the TV station will take the collected drama ratings to various advertisers to seek funding. Generally speaking, there will be 7 to 10 minutes of advertising in a 30-minute episode, and 14 to 20 minutes of advertising in a 60-minute episode. The part in between can be used for advertisers to bid for placement. As for the connection and factors between advertising and ratings, there are many. Since the target audiences of each product are different, it is often necessary to use the statistical data of male and female audiences of multiple age groups. For example, if a female product wants to advertise, it cannot be placed in a TV series with a male audience. Under normal circumstances, there is a consensus that women are more likely to have the impulse to consume than men, and among adults, the younger they are, the more likely they are to believe in advertisements. How to target the mass advertising population through programs is a test for the broadcasting departments of major TV networks, and how to place advertisements also tests the vision of advertisers. Whether it can be a win-win situation depends on a single thought. As for the final DVD distribution, it is roughly the same as the offline distribution of movies, and the copyright producer will get more than the distributor. Therefore, in this contract, the unpredictable advertising placement fees are put aside. If the ratings are stable above 3, Lyman can at least earn more than 18 million from the TV station's paid broadcast. If it is above 4, at least 23 million, and if it is above 5, about 30 million, and so on. Anyway, at its peak, Friends, which was stable above 7, brought the TV station at least 500 million in revenue a year. The producer probably made more than 100 million. Damn, advertisers are really big dogs. Unfortunately, the producers usually don't get much of the advertising fees, and the TV stations take the lion's share. This is also the general situation in the industry. Just like the advertising contract signed by Lyman for Prison Break, the producers can only get less than 30%, and the conditions are harsh. There is no way. The platform channels are naturally at the top of the food chain. Chapter 404, Prison Break, Part 2. After the filming of the first 3 episodes, Wentworth Miller returned to New York. He used to work as a handyman in a theater, usually helping to move props for performances, musicals, stage plays, etc. There are many men and women in the theater who have the dream of acting like him. It is also because in the theater, you can meet many big figures who have connections with the entertainment industry, and you never know when you will be noticed and have the opportunity to perform. Therefore, there is never a shortage of people who do heavy work with a meager salary in the theater. Wentworth Miller in the past was also one of them. Hollywood is a very dreamy place. Fame and wealth are the most delicious honey in the world. Even the restaurants and taxi drivers near these places of fame and fortune are part of the dream of being an actor. Walking out of a street, Miller returned to the place where he had worked as a handyman for more than a year. It was still a familiar decoration. He thought so. Taking advantage of noon, when there was no performance, he went backstage. As soon as his figure appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of many people. The news of his audition was not concealed, and his former colleagues also knew that he had participated in a TV series and was the protagonist. Of course, the latter is the key point. Most people here have played supporting roles, and they are not so ignorant of roles and crews. It is also because of this that they understand how rare opportunities are. Otherwise, they would not have to stay here, because they can't support themselves by playing supporting roles. With the high daily consumption, they must do other jobs to barely survive in this city. Miller came to get something. He was in a hurry that day, and some of his belongings and several sets of clothes were left in the lockers of the theater. Along the way, many unfamiliar and slightly familiar people greeted him very warmly. "Hi, Miller." A beautiful dancer who often performed in stage plays appeared in front of him. "Exquisite makeup, exquisite collarbone. What am I thinking about?" Miller cleared away unnecessary thoughts. Nodding politely, "Well, I'm here to get my things. I quit," he said. He took another step to the side, passing by the girl whose name he could not remember clearly. Some people saw his glory and were a little jealous. When a person becomes famous, all kinds of people will come to him. Some people envied him. "I wish I had such an opportunity." Some people scolded him. "I borrowed money from him before, but now he doesn't even respond to my greetings. He has no conscience." Miller didn't know what these people said about him. He didn't care. After being in the business for so long, he was used to similar thoughts, or rather, he had thought about it before. But the so-called friends have to pay a price. There is nothing in this world that can be obtained without hard work. Everyone understands. If he accepts a girl's kindness and cannot satisfy the girl's ideas, trouble will follow. He doesn't want to cause trouble when he himself is not stable. Besides, he doesn't like women. Literally, this guy came out, which happened around 2013. After getting his things back, Miller returned to his rented place. The rent here is very cheap, and the environment is naturally not much better. Not to mention the small space. There is no kitchen or bathroom. The bathroom is next to the bedroom, and there is even an unpleasant smell of urine. His agent suggested that he move to a better community. The security in this area has always been bad, and burglary is common. He was poor before, and was not afraid of this, but not now. Even if he only filmed 3 episodes, he still had more than $30,000. Moreover, he needs to cut off some ties with his past life. Otherwise, whether the TV series pilot is successful or not, whether he can continue to stay in Hollywood, and the rumors are not something he can stand. Failure will be ridiculed. Success will be even more troublesome. In the afternoon, Miller packed up his things, found a moving company, and after canceling the lease with the landlord, he went to rent a mid-range community near Hollywood, suggested by his agent. Most of the people here are TV actors, and everyone is in a similar circle. As a bachelor, his parents are both in the UK. Miller simply put away his luggage and went to take a shower. The decoration here is very good, with 1 bedroom and 1 living room, kitchen and bathroom, and a nice balcony. After taking a shower, it suddenly occurred to him. The pilot of Prison Break is tonight. He immediately turned on the TV and searched for the WBTV channel. It would be good to increase the ratings. The other people in the crew were also preparing to wait and see what the TV series they starred in was like. 8 o'clock in the evening. The living room of a certain community. A very ordinary family of 3. The father was holding the remote control to turn the TV to the WB channel. The son, who was still in the 7th grade, was a little dissatisfied and said angrily, "Watch the news again. I want to watch the HBO TV series The Wire." But the father was a patriarch and ignored him. "Wait until I finish watching the news program first." The son did not dare to talk back, so he had to lower his head and mutter, and a strong resentment emanated from his body. In the upscale community in the west of Burbank, Charles was very tired after returning home. Today is also the day when middle-aged contracted by Lyman films will be piloted on NBC TV. He turned on the TV and somehow pressed the WBTV channel first. He always felt a little worried about this enemy. It's not time to broadcast it yet, but WB will insert a preview of Prison Break after each program, or 3-minute simple preview edited by James Wan. WBTV station is very supportive of this TV series. Charles felt a little uneasy. For an industry insider like him, the TV station's time slot is very tight. It's okay to give Prison Break the prime time at 8 o'clock, but it also promotes it so hard. This is not a good thing for him. The more attention it pays, the more it shows that WBTV station is very confident. And it's so popular that it can probably attract a lot of viewers to have some interest in this drama, or even disgusted, but still willing to see the real thing. But what about his middle-aged man? NBC has no shortage of dramas, and the position for middle-aged man is close to 10 o'clock in the evening. The base of the audience group alone is quite different. In terms of publicity and promotion, NBC doesn't pay much attention to it and has not tilted too many resources on middle-aged man. Charles frowned. He didn't expect WBTV station to support it so much. In addition, the head of Lionsgate had recently replaced Lyman and had been aggressive in the internal meetings. This made him even more exhausted. Forget it, let's just watch the finished film first. It was almost 8:05, and after a commercial, Prison Break finally started. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405, Prison Break, Part 3. The original opening credits were Michael played by Miller, and the screen was full of tattoos on his back. Then the main film began. Well, the crew had a good idea. Tattoos. The structure of the prison was tattooed on the body surface, which was the biggest clue to the plot. But the problem was that it was too shabby. There was not even a soundtrack. I guess the original crew was really poor. Now it is different. The crew has money. The opening credits of James Wan's version not only has a soundtrack that fits the style, but also some of the filming content is constantly transferred, and the effect looks better. Then the music ended, and the two bold English words Prison Break came out. Then James Wan, the director, was thrown out, and there was a line of words below, screenwriter Jonathan/Lyman. After the main creative team was introduced, the screen went black. 3 or 4 seconds later, then, you can hear a sound similar to that of an electric drill. Then the screen lit up, presenting the whole scene completely. A room. A middle-aged woman with a very seductive makeup is tattooing a handsome man with a good figure, who has taken off his shirt. The sound similar to that of an electric drill is made by the tattoo machine in the woman's hand. After the last tattoo, the woman chuckled and said, "It's done." She stepped back and looked at her masterpiece. "Can I admire it for a while longer? You are really an artist, Sid." Then from what the woman said, everyone knew that the man in front of them had a full set of tattoos on his body in just 2 months. As for the reason why he was so crazy, the man just put on his clothes and explained calmly, "I don't have so much time, and I wish I had it." So what was he in a hurry to do? With doubts, the man went home and cleaned up a whole wall of case files, many of which were unrelated. He destroyed all the files and took out a pistol from the safe. With deeper doubts, the man put on a suit and went to a bank early the next morning. The next behavior was simply a reward for human doubts. The male protagonist calmly took out a pistol from his pocket, fired a shot into the air, and then said robbery. The bank staff were scared and lay on the ground without daring to make any moves. In this way, the man quickly put more than $500,000 in a bag. After getting the money, the man still did not leave, but forced the female teller to open the bank's safe. The female teller was stunned. She had never seen such an ignorant robber. Not only was he calm and greedy, but he also had a problem with his brain. You know, robbers are afraid that they will be too slow and attract the police, but this guy is afraid that he will be too fast and the police will not come. But the female teller still explained that she did not have the key to open the safe. The key is usually kept by the general manager of the branch, and the general manager rarely comes to the branch and only inspects it once a month. The man was still very calm and did not get angry. He chatted slowly until the police surrounded him. After the police arrived, the man did not resist at all, did not take hostages, and obediently threw the gun aside and raised his hands safely. After the fuss dissipated, the man's friend was a lawyer and took the initiative to defend him. He said that the man, that is, Michael Schofield, was an excellent construction engineer, and there must be other reasons for him to rob the bank. It is questionable that a middle-class person with a good family background and a smooth job would do such a thing. The implication is that Michael has a problem with his brain and is mentally ill. The jury was somewhat convinced, because even in their opinion, only Michael had a problem with his brain to do such an incredible and stupid thing as robbing a bank in broad daylight with a pistol. But Michael did not agree with this statement at all. He was so clear and organized that he did not look like a mental patient. Moreover, he had no history of such illness, nor did his family. He confessed all his crimes to the police. His behavior made the defense lawyer Veronica lose the case. Although the first offender could be given a lighter sentence, Michael's confession attitude was not good, and he was eventually sentenced to 5 years in prison by the judge. At the same time, out of humanitarianism, the judge also agreed to Michael's condition that he wanted to choose a prison closer to home to serve his sentence. The prison closest to his home is Fox River Prison in the suburbs of Chicago. The rhythm of American TV series these days is relatively fast, and the first few seasons of the story are rarely watered down. In the first 15 minutes of the first episode, after the protagonist appeared, Michael's personality characteristics were initially established in front of the audience. After arriving at the prison, several important characters also appeared one by one. For example, Bruce, the captain of the guard department of Fox River Prison, who was a serious-looking, unmarried man who never showed mercy to any criminals, and was not easy to talk to. His roommate in the same cell was Fernando Sucker, a Mexican criminal with a hot girlfriend, and John Abbas, the former Chicago underground king and prison celebrity. Fox River Prison is a first-level prison, where most of the prisoners are serious criminals and the security situation is very strict. When a young man like Michael was sent here, he was looked at with malicious eyes by several inmates, and was mocked as a fish. On the first day of imprisonment, he saw a prisoner who came in with the same class, being stabbed on the spot. But the people around him were just watching the excitement, even the police officers. This made Michael, who was a little prepared, frown. Then, he finally met his eldest brother, Lincoln Barrows, a death row prisoner in solitary confinement. A middle-aged man who was imprisoned and waited for 3 months before sitting on the electric chair for murdering the vice president's younger brother. But Michael told the visiting lawyer Veronica not to waste time on his case. The person she really wanted to help should be Lincoln. Michael firmly believed that his brother did not kill anyone and was wrongly accused. And Veronica was also Lincoln's ex-girlfriend. At this point, the audience suddenly realized something. It turned out that this big fool who robbed the bank actually wanted to rescue his brother together. He planned to escape from prison. This also corresponds to the clues at the beginning, such as large-scale tattoos and clues to the case on the whole wall. Because Michael also participated in the renovation project of Fox River Prison, the design was planned by him personally. At the end, Michael took advantage of the break time to find his brother Lincoln and told him his plan, and showed Lincoln the blueprint of the tattoo on his body. But Lincoln frowned and felt that his brother had done something stupid. He said that he was under strict supervision. Except for occasional rest time, he stayed in the cell most of the day. Even if he was resting, there was a barbed wire fence blocking him, and other people couldn't get in at all. Michael shook his head and always felt that his plan would not go wrong. At the critical moment, the first episode was over. Chapter 406. Not bad. That night, the viewers who were watching WBTV station had a little more surprise. The broadcast of new dramas has added a little more variability to the ratings that had plummeted after the end of the originally stable news program. The nearly 50-minute episode ended quickly amid some complaints. Oh, why is it over? What method did Miller come up with to rescue his brother from the first-level prison? It's only broadcast so far, and everything is unclear. The tattoos on the man's body and the wall. What is the relationship between the information on the show? This WB drama is quite interesting. It's not enough. It was late at night, and the audience who came here was quite satisfied with it. What's more, he even called the channel number of WBTV station, which made the staff on duty at the station very busy. The phones are ringing off the hook. It is really the power of public opinion. Fans of the drama saw a well-made drama that was simple and enthusiastic, and most of them asked for more. One episode a week is not enough. Can you show a few more episodes? The setting is very good, and the character of Miller is even more amazing. I hope this drama can continue to be filmed well. Looking forward to it. a high-end community in the living room. If the tense atmosphere on the WBTV station is a little more relaxed, then Charles is not feeling relaxed after watching this episode of Prison Break at this time. He looked at this subject matter, lamenting the novelty of the plot, and thinking to himself, this fucking scene is all shot in real life. How much does it cost? Who really believes that it can be successful? With such a huge amount of money, the production cost must not be more than 1 or 200. Is it worth it if it's just one episode? Charles' face looked very ugly. He thought Lyman was mentally ill. In order to suppress him, force him, and create such a huge momentum, even if WBTV station supports him, the money will definitely not be less, and most of the time it will not even be able to recover the cost, but the ratings will never be too bad. A lose-lose style of play. Charles was really scared. First it's Lionsgate, then it's the show's opening, aggressive and no expense spared. Charles felt that he might not be able to resist this battle. Otherwise, let's not fight. Lyman is a lunatic. Why should he argue with someone who is mentally ill? While Charles was thinking silently, the director of WBTV station showed a long-lost smile. The ratings statistics method for American dramas is relatively intuitive and convenient, but it will take several hours for the entire results to be fully calculated. Although he still has no way of knowing what the results of Prison Break will be, judging from his experience and intuition, the kind of praise and support are probably very good. At the very least, renewal is completely worry-free. I found a treasure. At the same time, audiences who are still reminiscing about the plot also praise the show for their relatives and friends around them. Have you watched the new drama on WB tonight? It's very interesting. I recommend watching it. From the level of this first episode and the development of the plot, it shows that the screenwriter is absolutely amazing, and the ideas are so appropriate. In the office of Warner headquarters, Barry Meir is also very concerned about the success of the show. Although the TV station is not under his control, he needs to pay attention to it because of Lyman. Maybe he really appreciates it. He is just handling official duties while watching the release of the ratings of Prison Break all night long, waiting for some happy phone call. As the key person who recommended WBTV station to broadcast Firefly Pictures block drama, the TV station was able to bite the bullet and buy the pilot rights of the drama for more than 2 million yuan, share the risk, and later sign the renewal contract in advance, which gave good conditions. Or have some of his contributions. Of course, all this assumes that Prison Break is really good. After all, Firefly Pictures has no experience in producing TV series before. Once it fails, although it won't lose much, the TV station may have some problems. It's not that the board of directors cannot tolerate some setbacks in its business, but it cannot tolerate continuous setbacks and no improvement. You know, they have spent too much to establish this TV station and complete Warner's media puzzle, and their support is also very strong big. But over the years, even if I can't make much money, I can't even capture the market share. The opinions of many shareholders are getting louder and larger, and the number of shareholders who want to bang the TV station is also increasing. The clear warning weighed on WBTV station like a stone. The fact that several batches of senior executives have been replaced in 3 years is also evident. Barry Meir also knows this, but if possible, he still hopes that WBTV station can gain a firm foothold. 23 o'clock. 23:30. 0.1 o'clock. Soon, after the time was close, a phone call rang in the quiet office. The phone in his pocket vibrated a little. Barry Meir stopped what he was doing and took a deep breath to relieve his tired body. He silently picked up the phone and put it to his ear. After a moment, his eyes widened as if he was losing his temper. "Are you sure the statistical results are correct?" The voice came through, and Charles forced himself to calm down and confirmed, "I checked it several times, and there is definitely nothing wrong. The national average ratings 3.2, the highest rating is 3.4, a 18-49 average rating. 2.7, peak rating 2.8, Charles repeated on the phone. Barry Meir was stunned. That certain and affirmative tone made him have no choice but to believe it. In this way, there will be a primetime TV series on Sunday. What does it mean to have such data for the first episode of the pilot? Both people on the phone were very clear. Barry Meir is excited. The audience loss is within a very safe range. Charles was still saying, for a pilot show like Prison Break, this data is one of the most critical. Numerical comparison of peak ratings and average ratings. Many times, adaptations of popular scripts and dramas that TV executives admire very much are aired. Due to the investment of a large amount of preheating resources, the first run ratings are rarely higher than 3, and even break 5 or 6. However, the difference between the highest statistical value and the average statistical value is less than 0.2, which means that most viewers watch the WBTV drama channel without changing the channel. While watching the first episode of Prison Break, they were quite satisfied with the content of the first episode. As for the statistical interval value of a 19-49, it means that Prison Break is definitely a drama that young people love to watch. If the follow-up audience base can remain stable or even increase all the way, when the reputation of the TV series itself spreads, Prison Break will never only have a ratings of 3. The two of them could even see advertisers opening their arms to WBTV station. Tonight, they are destined to have no sleep. Chapter 407 Chapter 411 Haha. The reason why classic dramas are classics is that their quality is absolutely beyond doubt. Prison Break, the first drama to start the Prison Break theme, is not outdated even in 201. The original version of Prison Break is limited by production funds, and many places are not perfect. There are also several shots of goofs. It's a bit rough. But now, with sufficient budget, whether it is the renovation and construction of the real scene of the former Fox River prison, it is more reasonable. The original version has almost no shots about prison meals, and there are no scenes of large groups of prisoners eating. Can prisoners not be hungry after being imprisoned in there for several months? This is of course a loophole. The shooting staff also understands, but because this kind of shot is too costly and has little effect on the promotion of the main line, it was simply abolished by the crew. But now, in order to more realistically show the life in the prison in the United States, most of the aspects of the prison are shot and processed according to real life. What can be done is a number of costumes, props, and group performances. Try to improve the texture as much as possible and improve it a little bit in all aspects. The overall effect, well, the visual enjoyment of the audience, in addition to the performance of the actors, is reflected in these details everywhere. Unlike acting, which can be either passable or excellent, it is not such an abstract thing. Watching a drama, even the scenery is not good, and the props are full of plastic smell. This viewing experience, no matter how good the actors are, is just so-so. This is even more so in TV dramas. Prison Break is mainly based on the plot, laying the suspense of how to escape, and attaches great importance to the development of the story. The first episode introduces some main characters and sets the conditions for the prison break. In the second episode, Miller confesses to his cellmate that the ultimate purpose of his abnormal behavior is to use the sewer of Fox River Prison to escape. He also shows his tattoos, which contain the flow route of the sewer. Of course, most people can't understand it, because the setting is very complicated. Only Miller can see the party portrayed from the lines. This is a very typical technique, emphasizing the protagonist. Most people don't have his kind of mind. Then, at the end of the second episode, Miller secretly opened the toilet at night and slowly dug behind the wall. Suddenly, when the corridor outside was as quiet as usual, a beam of light shone on Miller's back. Was he discovered? It was interrupted at the most critical part again. The audience watching Prison Break was angry. When have they been treated like this? Just like the best graduate in a certain interruption class, always at the climax of the plot. Alas, it's gone. We can only watch it tomorrow. Oh, no, it's next week. Are you angry? Very angry. The surging public opinion made the TV station's answering staff very depressed. They can't do anything about it, so what's the point of scolding people? As for some other opinions, they can still be listened to. Can the length of each episode be increased a little more? Can the plot be advanced faster and not interrupted there? Dogecoin TV. This weekend, WBTV really challenged the emotional regulation ability of many viewers. The next day, a very ordinary day, Lyman was counting on his fingers in the company's office to list some projects that have not yet started. Alas, they are all squeezed into the end of the year. New York trip needs the summer season. to have enough audience base to support the screening of a blockbuster worth hundreds of millions, prevent the film's potential from not being released because of the market itself. Then there is the award-winning public relations of $1 Million Baby, which also requires a lot of energy. With this in mind, it is also necessary to set aside time for some necessary trivial matters of the company. The degree of busyness is even more intense than the post-production of the movie, and because the summer season is approaching, calling him seems to be a bit out of time. There is even some anxiety in my heart. Obviously, he is so successful, which is incomparable to 2 years ago. How come he has less and less time to rest after making money? He can be said to be living the daily life of a rich man, the first generation of rich people who started from scratch. Apart from comforting himself like this, Lemon didn't know what to think. In the office, after reading some company financial reports and employee transfers, Lemon notified the human resources department and approved Joseph's plan. After discussing these internal matters of the company, Ryan brought another good news. In view of the record-breaking ratings of the second episode of Prison Break, not only did it stabilize the audience market of the first episode, but the statistics of R18-49 of the second episode also broke 3. WBTV station no longer had any worries and quickly hoped to sign a renewal contract with Firefly Pictures to allow the crew to continue to work hard to shoot the remaining plot content. After watching these 2 episodes, many viewers turned into urging Monsters to update the show, and most of them gave positive reviews to the content of the show. They have become fans who are deeply addicted to it and cannot extricate themselves. The senior executives of the TV station, and even the senior executives of Warner, are also trying to implement the follow-up content of Prison Break as soon as possible and continue to broadcast it on the WBTV channel. In order to avoid more trouble at night, the attitude was clearly expressed before the 3 episodes of the pilot were finished. This attitude that is not conducive to negotiations is really that WBTV station has been thirsting for a good show for a long time and does not care about a little profit. The details of the contract have not been fully agreed upon. This news is indeed very moral boosting for Lemon, who is trying to further force Charles to give up his shares in Lyman Pictures. The plan is also being implemented as expected. Although Lyman Pictures had a good profit prospect in the past, most of it was due to the TV department. The good relationship with many TV stations and even British TV stations was the foundation of all this. But if this part fails, or if Lemon proves that he also has the ability to produce and distribute TV series, what will happen to the company's management? How can a person without a voice smoothly control everything? And no one can tell when the market trend will change. Charles should also know that, if Lemon really has this strength, the current resistance is meaningless. If Charles controls the management and threatens with passive sabotage and continuous losses, will he still let go? Every month of loss, the worse the company's asset evaluation, the less valuable the equity in Charles' hands will be. Lemon can completely bear the loss of hundreds of thousands, but Charles can't afford such intentions and methods. After all, the needs of the two are different. Lemon only needs the company's employees and distribution channels, and other things don't matter, but Charles is here to make money. If the company doesn't make money, can it continue to be deadlocked? I will talk to them about the details of the contract tomorrow. Well, I will reply. Chapter 408 Market. Can you two stay for a while and answer a few questions? Near Santa Monica Square, where commercial buildings are lined up, at 3 p.m., a statistical investigator commissioned by WBTV to conduct an on-site interview stopped a slightly younger man and woman. Perhaps it would be safer to say they were a couple. After the two stopped, they did not show any impatience. So the man said, "I would like to ask, have you watched the TV series Prison Break?" Random surveys and street interviews are very common in the United States. The girl of the stopped man and woman answered first, "I have watched it. It's very good." "Not yet." The boy also said, and then quickly added, "I will definitely watch it when I have time. TV series that Sally can approve of are obviously the best." After saying that, the girl rolled her eyes at the boy, but she was still very satisfied with his sensible behavior. In her joy, she embraced the boy, stood on tiptoes, and kissed his cheek. Then, the boy responded, The two of them exuded the sour smell of love, as if no one was around, forcing the interviewer to flee like a plague. God has mercy on him, he is still single. Hello, can you spare a moment to ask a few questions? The man continued his street interview. Are you an employee of WBTV? Can you help me respond? Don't do such a wicked thing. How can you control the length of a show like this? You have to leave a little suspense at the end of each show. Oh, that's right. I was so upset last night. There was not enough plot to finish, and I wanted to see if Miller's digging hole was discovered, and if something happened. A person nearby heard the interview and ran over to join in the fun. An afternoon passed quickly. The man surveyed 123 people in total, 42 of whom had watched Prison Break, and 38 of them thought the TV series was pretty good. As for which character they liked the most, and what needed to be improved, they also had to ask. On the other side, at the headquarters of WBTV, director Andrew Hernandez also happily answered the phone. It was a call from a board member who supported him. How long can the TV series be broadcast, and will there be a replacement after it is over? As they chatted, they talked about Prison Break. 1 episode a week, it can be broadcast for 3 months. As for the replacement program, there is no suitable one yet. Oh, there will be no more after that? Andrew Hernandez was sweating. In fact, he hadn't even finished the follow-up broadcast of Prison Break. But what could he say? He could only deal with it. The WBTV station is quite impressive. This is Lemon's second time here, but he has a special feeling. 10 minutes later, the director's assistant ran down to pick him up. It was just the time when the TV station was off work. 2 people came to meet them. Lemon saw that these employees were in a good mood and joked, "Is there any good news? Did you get paid?" "No." The female assistant smiled. Lemon didn't ask about this denial. It seems that the situation inside the TV station is still very good. There was no such atmosphere when he came last time. The 2 people took the elevator to the 5th floor and walked straight to Andrew's office. When they came out of the elevator, pushing open the door, it was still a familiar layout, and Andrew was sitting behind the desk. Hearing the movement, he had already moved his eyes here. "President." The female assistant greeted with a smile. After the person was brought in, he closed the door and left. As soon as the female assistant left, Andrew immediately stood up and shook hands with Lemon very enthusiastically. "I guess you also know that the performance of Prison Break is not bad." Obviously, in terms of friendship, the two have only met once and are not familiar with each other. But in the business world, what should be expressed should still be expressed. Lemon also smiled and said, "I haven't seen you for 2 months. Mr. Andrews' temperament is still the same. I need to take care of our company in the future." "You're welcome." The 2 of them exchanged pleasantries and sat down. Andrew didn't want to be long-winded, so he quickly got to the point. "About Prison Break, should we formally sign a broadcast contract? I came here this time, of course, with the idea of continuing cooperation, but..." Lemon paused. Andrew frowned slightly. The man opposite showed a smile that was a bit shy and wanted to make money. "Of course there is no problem with cooperation. A platform like WB is also what we need. But I think the details that were initially discussed last time can still be manipulated." The smile on Andrew's face weakened a little. "There is no way. The situation is stronger than people." Then, Lemon said, "Besides, after the first season of Prison Break is over, there will be 2 more seasons, and we have an idea." Andrew thought for a moment and asked, 3 seasons? "Yes." Lemon nodded and said, "We have an idea of how to advance the plot of the whole show." "Is that so?" Andrew hesitated. Lemon smiled and said, "I'm shooting for a quality show, and I will never drag out the plot. 3 seasons is already the limit. Shooting more will only reduce the audience's expectations. That doesn't make much sense. Can we sign it together?" After hearing what Lemon said, Andrew did not hide his determination. 3 seasons together. Is that a good offer? Without the statistical data of the ratings to support it, if I say it's high, you won't agree, right? Lemon asked. Andrew was speechless for a moment. If it's low, will I agree? I don't think the ratings of 3 will be the end of Prison Break. Andrew thought for a moment and continued to remain silent. Let's do it 1 season at a time. If the first season can stably exceed 4, we will definitely give in. Firefly Pictures is just a newcomer in the TV industry, and WBTV can't give a very high contract framework. Okay. Andrew smiled bitterly. Are young people nowadays so calculative? They are all hard to fool. Of course, he didn't think Lyman and his team could achieve such results at first. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stipulated that, as long as the pilot could stably exceed 1.3, they would be renewed. Take a look at the terms of the contract first. Can you accept it? The sample of the pilot contract was brought over. It's not a big problem. Lyman flipped through the pages and added, I hope to get an additional 5% of the offline share of Prison Break. Andrew thought for a while and said, I need to discuss this with someone. Lyman said seriously, I have no opinion on the advertising share, but the offline business is a long-term way to make money. To be honest, exchanging time for profit should not be so difficult. There are still 2 seasons to come, and we can't do everything at once. Andrew was silent for 2 or 3 minutes, and finally chose to give in. Okay, this is the price. Let's sign the contract as soon as possible. No matter how uncertain, WBTV station can't afford to waste time, so just treat it as a better cooperation in the future. Chapter 409 Exchange of Interests. This confrontation between Lyman and Andrew is an exchange of interests after both parties have calculated their own situation. Lyman does not want to exert his strength on advertising revenue, and he is betting that Prison Break will definitely become popular. Therefore, long-term benefits are more worth fighting for than short-term benefits. For example, the current film and television drama market in his hometown is not standardized, but it will surely be valued in the future, and it is also good to seize the opportunity. Prison Break is a phenomenal Enlightenment American drama over there, but it is not so popular in the United States. It can only be said that it is not bad, but it is not as good as Friends, that has broken 7 or 8. Why do you say that? Maybe some people have been exposed to American dramas very early, but they have always been a very small circle. It was not until 2004 and 2005 that the market for American dramas suddenly exploded in the mainland. People were crazy about chasing dramas. Prison Break caught the best time. Because I used to watch those American dramas through pirated discs, and when Prison Break was broadcast, it happened that BT download technology had a great breakthrough. Many of the popular American TV series at that time were widely spread through the trend of new media such as blogs and forums. For newcomers, the plot of Prison Break is more exciting, more suspenseful, and easier to accept. When the pits dug are filled, there is no suspense, which is also the biggest key to Prison Break not being so prominent in the United States. Of course, it is not as watered down as the original version now, so it must have a lot of stamina. As for why it has become a phenomenon in the mainland, there are actually several reasons to sum up. The first is definitely the qualitative change in internet speed, from the squeaking kitten to broadband. Otherwise, even if the BT download technology breaks through, there is no soil for cultivation. The second is the rise of subtitle groups. It is still difficult to enjoy the viewing experience if you don't understand English when you come into contact with American TV series. The third is that it is legitimate. Many student groups can learn English directly on the grounds of watching American TV series, which is supported by many parents and teachers. How did the number of viewers at that time increase dramatically? Let me give you an example. At that time, the forum would go down, not because of star chasing or some hot gossip like today's social media, but because of the weekly updates of Prison Break, which caused everyone to discuss wildly and caused the forum server to crash. Its charm was immeasurable. Of course, no matter how high the amount of BT downloads is, Lyman can't make a penny from it now, but the market foundation laid in advance is undoubtedly a good move for companies in the film and television industry. But for Andrew, he certainly doesn't have such a long-term vision. He agreed to this condition, which was a bet on the name of Lyman, and the future market value would definitely not decline. At present, WBTV station does not have many competitive programs, and its market share is completely incomparable with several other companies. It can be said that it is already standing on the edge of the cliff. If it retreats, the TV station will definitely not escape the fate of restructuring. He himself has been warned about this. Moreover, many of the programs produced by the TV station are not very competitive. Not to mention, whether it is profitable or not, it can't even go on, and it is useless to make a little more money. The TV station is gone, and he himself has been fired. Why is he fighting for it? In fact, if the TV station is not currently supported by the ratings of Prison Break and its own news section has some foundation, the financial statements of the last few months will definitely be very ugly. Just like this, the TV station has been steadily breaking through, and there is still a potential for the market. The advertising fees indirectly or directly brought in. 6 advertisements were inserted in more than 50 minutes of content, earning a total of more than $130 million. The TV station's income is close to more than $83 million. A lot of blood has been recovered. If Prison Break really flopped, maybe the TV station couldn't even afford the normal personnel salary expenses. At that point, I think he would have to follow the previous directors and resign decisively. If it is not profitable, there is still a large financial burden. Which group is willing to support it all the time? Warner Brothers can't do it. Not to mention that Warner's subsidiary channel HBO has always been profitable and firmly occupies the first place among a group of paid subscription competitors. HBO is not unable to complement Warner's media sector. This is also the reason why Warner is increasingly cold to WBTV. Under such internal and external pressure, Andrew finally grasped a life-saving straw and spent his energy to promote Prison Break produced by Lyman Company. It was almost his best choice at present. Lyman was not so aggressive and did not strive for the biggest profit point of the TV series. In Andrew's eyes, the advertising share was a statement of willingness to cooperate and actively strive for cooperation. As for the offline share, Andrew had a willing idea after giving it, and there was a possibility of a win-win situation. The next day, Lyman took the lawyer team to carefully check the various terms of the contract. After there were no problems, they quickly exchanged contracts and kept them separately. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. At that time, while Lyman gathered the production team of Prison Break to continue filming, Andrew was also giving a conference speech in the conference room of WBTV. Obviously, the Prison Break we paid for still has a certain market potential to be tapped. Although this drama is not outstanding in the overall market this year, it is definitely a correct introduction in terms of quality and audience reputation. Andrew said, looking around. In the TV station's production department, many program managers lowered their heads. Especially the film and television production department. They had no face. So the next thing is to increase publicity. Andrew changed his tone and finally showed a little smile on his serious face. This drama has been officially signed, and we must increase the resources for promotion. Originally, it was a trial broadcast, and the resources were not much, or it was not the kind that WBTV station needed to do its best. Now that they are their own people, of course, they don't need to consider anything when dealing with their own projects. The only thing that matters is to maximize the market value of Prison Break. Arrange the most channels for promotion. Andrew said firmly, I will ask the finance department to allocate funds. I hope that the TV station can continue to work hard in the future and produce more and better programs. Yes. Everyone nodded in agreement. The meeting is adjourned. Andrew's tone was quite high-spirited. Later, that night, many programs on WBTV were broadcast with previews of new episodes of Prison Break. At the same time, various related soft articles, online, and offline news about Prison Break began to appear. Paper media, websites and other channels, all united TV stations to make efforts. Prison Break is on fire. Chapter 410, Rise. How much does proper publicity add to a work? When WBTV and Firefly Pictures jointly promoted it, more and more passers-by saw the news of the broadcast of Prison Break through various channels, and knew what the show was about, so they had some impressions in their minds. And then a question emerged, is this show good? At this point, the rest is the actual confirmation. In addition to updating one episode every Sunday at 8 p.m., Prison Break is also replayed on weekdays. Passers-by found the channel of WBTV with a little scrutiny and saw the replay content. When these people watched it, they basically couldn't get out. It is just that attractive. It is not simple, but also a bit brain-burning. The plot rhythm is relaxed, and the subject matter is novel. It tells the life of a group of prisoners in the midst of power and calculation. Those characters with different personalities, even those who are biased towards the black camp, take turns to appear. Miller is calm, paranoid and crazy. T-Bag is fierce, cruel, overly self-centered and bisexual, and has become a lone wolf because of his tragic childhood. Lincoln is inexplicably involved in a murder case and subconsciously protects his brother. Nick is an old man who always basks in the sun alone with a cat in his arms, but is actually antisocial. This is a rather unique group portrait. Compared with creating positive characters, the characters in this drama are all bad guys walking on the edge of the cliff. Everyone is boldly trampling on the law. For the audience, this kind of drama where good and evil seem to be reversed is not mainstream at all, but it unexpectedly has an inexplicable attraction. Watching a group of bad guys planning how to escape from Fox River Prison also makes them uncontrollably infected by the story. It's full of suspense. Therefore, the army of people chasing the drama is getting bigger and bigger. Many forums on the internet have also seen a large number of posts discussing the plot of Prison Break. Various speculations, feelings, and recommendations have come one after another. Conscientious drama, highly recommended. There is a kind of irony in the racial concept of white supremacy. Look at who has such ideas. T-Bag, prison guard Blake. Haha, it just shows that only selfish and narrow-minded people have such extreme thoughts. It's so hard to wait. I really want to finish watching it all at once. Are there many gays in prison? This drama is not dragged out at all, and there are details and clues everywhere that drive the plot. I suddenly want to get a tattoo. Miller has a different charm when he takes off his shirt to show his tattoo. So handsome. The voice of discussion is endless. Of course, this drama cannot be loved by any audience. It can also be seen from the audience that Prison Break is a typical youth drama, and there are very few elderly people. However, just like Friends, a national comedy, some people don't like it. But after the publicity, the base of the audience is still increasing. Then, the ratings began to rise. When the third episode was about to be broadcast, due to the previous foreshadowing and the overly successful publicity, tonight was unprecedentedly grand. Most young people locked on the WBTV station, which was all Prison Break. The ratings also suddenly broke through from 3.7 to 4.5, soaring at the speed of a rocket. When Miller hinted to the boss of the prison, a boss, about some things about his gang, in order to implement his plan, the prison guard Blake privately handed it over to a boss and his gang to interrogate Miller on the way to the cell. In order to keep the evidence, Miller threatened a boss and asked him to cooperate with him to work in the warehouse. He refused to let go and kept refusing to tell the whereabouts of the witness Fibonacci. A boss's men cut off his toes. Blood gushed out, and Miller fainted from the pain. But even though he was unconscious, he did not let go, let alone yell. His tenacity made a boss frown secretly. The third episode was over. The audience in front of the TV set off a frenzy of discussion again. The influence of Prison Break also overshadowed the dramas of the same period, such as The Wire and House MD, becoming the most eye-catching TV series in winter and the most successful work of WBTV so far. The audience was enthusiastic, and the media continued to launch many commentary articles discussing the characters and the plot. Miller still took it for granted. He thought he could threaten a boss by holding something against him. He didn't know that this former Chicago underground emperor still had a lot of influence even in prison, and even the prison guards could be biased to help him. A boss was too tough. He didn't accept the threat at all. This was just a reminder to cut his toes. If Miller wanted to continue to find a way to get close to Lincoln, persuading a boss was the most critical step. What would he do? T-Bag's character was portrayed so deeply. His dragging steps, provocative eyes, unique voice, iconic licking of lips, and his words always contained sexual innuendos, and he was cynical and funny. Especially the sentence he complained, "Why don't you send us to a cooler place? For example, Africa. This guy really likes to make fun of the skin color of black people, but I don't know why I can't hate him." Maybe this is the charm of this character. He is just bad to the bone. I don't know when villains can be sought after. As soon as T-Bag appeared, especially the action of asking someone to put his hand in his pocket, he quickly established his character. Many of his classic lines have also been circulated on the internet. Not hot? Pointing at the black inmate. He was still white when he went to bed yesterday, and he still has white skin when he wakes up. I'm always treated as a bad guy here. Are you all locked up because you stole cookies from the Girl Scouts? He mocked Miller and the Renault's rejection of him. What you have to do is very simple. Just grab this pants pocket. Wherever I go, you follow me. Stay close to me so that no one here can hurt you. He seduced the newly imprisoned white-skinned prisoners. You have to learn the first lesson of the art of negotiation. When bargaining, you have to look at your situation first. Miller rejected T-Bag's sexual suggestion, and he licked his lips and threatened. I feel like my life is like a coin on the railroad track. Every day, trains come and go, and run over me, press from above, turn over and press, but it can never be rolled flat. It can be said that there are many golden lines. A character in the evil camp, who is too charming, has the same popularity as the protagonist. Prison Break has only aired 3 episodes, and none of the most popular characters have a role as the female lead. It is a typical drama for men. A group of prisoners and government officials planned a murder case, and the vortex formed was full of intrigue, fierce fighting, and frequent schemes. It was very exciting to watch. There is no doubt that the word of mouth effect of the good drama has fermented. Chapter 411, Rupture. Andrew is a man with ideas. Because of the good performance of Prison Break, it can be regarded as a new situation in the field of TV dramas. Naturally, he does not want to continue to be silent. In a short period of time, in addition to contacting more advertisers to attract funds, the company's production department also cooperated with another film and television company to produce a new drama. It also focuses on the youth market and is a campus comedy type. It is scheduled to be broadcast at 10 p.m. after Prison Break. With the audience traffic driven by Prison Break, the first episode of the pilot also had a rating of 1.7. Although it is not high, the production cost of the series is not much. If it continues, it can still make a good profit. It's a pity that WB station did not use this to form the most favorable momentum for the development of multiple situations. Other programs are still not good. Unlike NBC, which relied on the dividends of Friends to broadcast, the performance of other aspects has also risen sharply. And Lyman did not reveal any ideas for producing new dramas, so Andrew's plan to use the production capacity of Firefly Pictures to open up WB station and enter the situation naturally failed. Fortunately, he had secured the rights to broadcast Prison Break in advance, so it would not fall into decline immediately before the 3 seasons that Lyman mentioned were finished. The performance of this drama has refreshed his psychological expectations. For now, as long as the situation can be stabilized, it is undoubtedly the most reassuring thing for the TV station. Andrew's vision was also praised by some senior executives at Warner headquarters. The original reorganization was also silent. After all, for Warner, as long as WB can be self-sufficient, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make money, as long as it doesn't need blood transfusions all the time. Then, entering the first weekend of November, Lyman Vish Pictures had some different movements. Charles did not appear as harmonious as before in a cooperation meeting with ABC. How can you do this? This is an act that violates the spirit of the contract. I will not agree. Charles angrily shouted at Roddle, an acquaintance with whom he had cooperated many times, a man wearing glasses, with sparse hair, about 50 years old, who was also one of the executives of the ABC TV series department. Seeing him so angry, Roddle still looked calm, as if he didn't hear anything, without any anger. After all, he was offending people, so it was right for them to be angry. This is what the higher-ups mean. I just deal with you frequently, so I'll let you know in advance. If you don't agree, we can't coordinate the broadcast schedule. Charles' face darkened. It's okay that the new drama Middle-Aged Man produced by itself has not been better than Prison Break, but now ABC is even going to tear up the signed broadcast contract. They want to take Middle-Aged Man off the schedule, cut it off, and replace it with other new dramas to compete with WB, so as to win the favor of advertisers. You know, the production cost of Middle-Aged Man is not high, and the ratings during the pilot were too, so it is definitely profitable to renew it, which is a win-win situation. But now, tell him that it's not possible, and ABC will not broadcast it. What a joke. The friendship of the past cooperation did not give Charles any face. How can he not be angry? To be fair, Middle-Aged Man is a small production of the sitcom type. The audience market of Prison Break does not overlap with that of Prison Break. No matter how popular Prison Break is, it will not affect anything. In the previous life, it successfully completed one season and was considered to be the type of stable money making. It will not explode, and it is difficult to have no market. Unfortunately, it was born at the wrong time and was hit by Lyman with Prison Break. After a big fish appeared in the winter schedule, ABC could not bear to broadcast such a mediocre drama. How to say it? Several major TV stations are competitors to each other. How can they fall behind too much? As for the personal relationship between Roddle and Charles, business is business, right? This is not something that should be considered in the business world. After all, the top management has made a decision. Whether it is said or not, Middle-Aged Man has to make room, and this is not something Roddle can avoid. The ratings may not be comparable, but the TV series itself is not bad, and it has an audience base. Why do you want to cut it? Part of the reason is that advertisers are putting pressure on it. They think that Middle-Aged Man does not meet the conditions for product placement. The contracts that can be renewed have been signed, and the crew is working hard to catch up with the schedule. Can all of this be invalidated? We will compensate you. It will be enough to make up for these losses and you won't lose money. That's it? Charles laughed angrily. Not to mention that, if the TV series cannot be broadcast, there will be no share of the advertising placement fees in the future, and it will not be possible to burn CDs and harvest the offline market. In addition, the crew that is still filming will also be disbanded, which will definitely offend the actors. Those minor roles don't need to be taken care of, but the leading actors have worked with Charles many times, and the two sides also have a personal relationship. On weekdays, whenever there is a project, they will basically invite him, and he is also very happy to make time for filming. Can these losses also be measured by money? Furthermore, ABC had no conscience at all, and only agreed to compensate for the losses caused by the suspension of filming. This amount of money was too far from the profit of the project that Charles expected. How could he be satisfied? A good meeting between friends was now mixed with the smoke of war. Roddle lowered his head and said nothing, but sneered in his heart. He didn't take Charles seriously at all. If Lyman Films could not bring film sources and profits to ABC, who would make friends with you? I kindly notified you and gave you some preparations, but you didn't appreciate it. The indifferent attitude on his face was no longer a smile to hide. As for Charles's loss of composure, it was because it was a TV series produced by Lyman. If it was other film and television companies, it would be fine. They would give in if they gave in, lose if they lost, and withdraw if they withdrew. But the opponent was still trying to acquire his hard work, but he didn't do anything about the personnel, let alone bring in the production team to make progress together. Now he was suppressing them. Lionsgate also intervened in the personnel department, which made Charles hold a grudge. This is good. The grudge was not vented, but deepened. Charles was furious, and ABC's abandonment only made him even more furious. How could he not explode? He waved his hand and said unceremoniously, ABC can do whatever it wants with this matter. I have no problem with it. Of course. In that case, I'll go back first. There are a lot of things to do in the company, and I can't be as leisurely as you. Roddle's words were equally unceremonious, which was very insulting. It also showed that the relatively harmonious relationship between the two had broken down. He stood up decisively and said, remember to send someone over tomorrow to re-sign a copyright contract. After that, he left the club directly. He was not worried about the consequences of tearing up the contract on his own initiative. Anyway, ABC, who has always been strong, is not afraid. Charles' face became even uglier. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412 Transfer. November 9th, 7 degrees outside. After more than 80 days of silence, the distribution department of Lyman Films began to get excited when they heard that the production department's new drama Middle-Aged failed to renew its schedule with ABC TV. The management of this group of people had long been flirting with outsiders such as Lyman. Seeing that Charles could not maintain the situation, they were also a little impatient and often sent people to win over grassroots employees from other departments with the intention of undermining Charles's system. Such a move naturally aroused the anger of many executives of Films, but Charles was a little discouraged. He had understood Lyman's determination and knew that if he continued to stay, the company's asset valuation would only become less and less valuable. The film and television industry has always been like this. DreamWorks can be valued at more than $1 billion, isn't it, because the copyright of the works and the internal prospects are optimistic about many tycoons? Of course, the many talents of DreamWorks are also part of the value. If we really calculate it in terms of fixed assets, $500 million is high. At a meeting, Charles did not make the bold statements in the past, but rarely spoke. His attitude, just sitting there, saying nothing, showed his attitude. After the meeting, everyone left, and the atmosphere was weird. Some were worried, some were secretly happy, and some were depressed, but most of them did not show it on the surface. After Lyman knew about this, he smiled and took Johnson to the headquarters building of Vish Pictures again. This day should come. After all, Charles is not a fool. Will meaningless resistance be useful? If he can really stabilize the company, it will take some effort. But think about it, he was able to force the financial owner Hunter to be like that, so he is certainly not a pedantic person. Seeing that the situation was out of control, he thought about leaving quickly and decisively. For the calculation of the pros and cons of this time. Not bad. What price does Mr. Lyman plan to buy these shares in my hand? In the office, Charles did not have any resentment and accepted his elimination calmly. Under your leadership, Lyman Films has been developing smoothly. The asset valuation has increased several times in the past 7 or 8 years. In addition, the company's finances can also maintain independence and freedom. I'm very happy to acquire such high quality assets. How about this? How about a valuation of $600 million? Hunter's shares were valued at $600 million. After a few months, the company was in a mess. It was reasonable to lower the price, but Lyman did not want to add to the twists and turns, and still offered $600 million. Charles was still very calm, and did not have any opinions on the price. Instead, he talked about other things. Firefly Pictures does not lack a behind-the-scenes production team. It is the same whether there is a production department of Films. In other words, after acquiring all the shares, you should also merge Films into Firefly Pictures. Maybe you will have to persuade the management of Films. In this case, why not give me the assets you don't need, and I'm willing to offer a price. I want the production department and the TV marketing department. How about it? Lyman was a little stunned. This man has a good idea. He had originally planned to discard the sign of Films after the acquisition, and only wanted most of the grassroots employees. He would not take any of the management promoted by Charles, but because these people still had some equity, he was thinking about how to get it back after the merger. But he did not expect Charles to have such calculations. Lyman frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Charles nodded slightly. "All the departments and assets related to TV series should be separated, and I'm willing to exchange them for the equity in my hand. Anyway, this part of the assets is mostly overlapping for Firefly Pictures, which is a waste of resources. It is better to let me manage this mess. How many shares are worth it? 20%. Such a big thing is not something I can discuss alone. Let's call all shareholders to discuss it together." Lyman's words were of course excuses. After all, in name, Films still had a part of Lionsgate's equity. To put it bluntly, Lyman was not satisfied with Charles' offer. He didn't want it, but he didn't want to sell it at a low price. Why should he let others take advantage of him? Charles's plan was clear. He just wanted to split up Films and start over. Damn, apart from the North American distribution channel, this part of the assets of Lyman Films is the most valuable. He wants to take it away with 20%. He is dreaming. I would rather rot in the bowl of Firefly. After being rejected, Charles was not angry. Since ABC tore up the contract, He has thought a lot. He hurriedly said, 35%. I can also persuade others to give up their shares. The management of Lyman Vish Films still holds nearly 10% of the shares. If these people collectively oppose Lyman's acquisition, it will be a more troublesome matter. This condition is a bit sincere. Anyway, Lyman will not give up the grassroots employees of various departments. What Charles can take away is equivalent to the configuration when the company was first established 7 or 8 years ago. It is necessary to train suitable employees again and start all over again. The only advantage is that he has experience in starting a company and his accumulated connections are much stronger than before, so he can quickly stabilize his pace in the circle. Lyman didn't answer but turned to look at Johnson. Johnson was sitting next to him, listening the whole time. When he saw Lyman's look, he was sure. He immediately said angrily, if you have such a plan, why didn't you say it at the beginning? Firefly acquired Vish Films because it wanted the distribution channels and those grassroots employees. But now, perhaps a full acquisition to supplement Firefly's production capabilities is also a good choice. Charles ignored Johnson at all. Could he have foreseen that Firefly Pictures was not only good at making movies, but also TV series? If not, why would he quit? Do you really think it's easy to start over? Charles just looked at Lyman again and said, you set the conditions. Lyman hid the smile in his heart and said, you have to do the full acquisition for me, and the valuation is still 600 million. Those who want to go with you can only be the management. In this case, you should sign the equity transfer agreement first. Charles nodded. Of course I will do it. With such performance, it is worth it for him to develop Vish Films to this point. Between advance and retreat, the way out has been found long ago. Maybe he can continue to do well in the TV drama circle in the future. After all, he has connections and contacts in TV stations in Britain and the United States. Whether it is contracting production business or distributing new dramas, he is better than most people. Chapter 413 Fangs. Finally, the chaos was settled. With Charles signing the equity transfer contract first, Lyman also showed his fangs for the first time in the acquisition. Just like betraying Paramount, people really grow up. It turns out that the little man who only wanted to shoot his favorite works independently has already had greater ambitions. When Lyman and Johnson left, Charles immediately called his confidants to discuss. He did not talk about the fact that he had transferred his shares. Most of the management who held a small part of the shares expressed their willingness to continue to follow him when they learned that he had the idea of leaving. Only 1 or 2 people saw that the situation was not right and defected to the distribution department. They persuaded Charles to act cautiously and perfunctorily. However, Charles, who was full of thoughts about clearing factions and resolutely not giving anyone a chance to interfere, could not be unaware of the deep meaning behind these words, and he kept it in mind. Why did he leave in embarrassment? Wasn't it because Hunter brought in Lyman and his group? Having done this before, and tasted the bitter fruit of power dispersion, how could he make the same mistake again? The management who holds equity must be united. Anyway, the people who asked him to think carefully seemed to be doing good for him, but Charles had already made a choice, and would soon re-establish a film and television company with his subordinates. By then, there would be no place for such people, and the more times like this, the faster you have to act. If you wait until Lyman takes over the company, it will be troublesome and there might be some waves. With this idea in mind, Charles began to make his own arrangements. He first persuaded these subordinates to sell their shares, and then took the information to re-establish a new film and television company, and then arranged for the copyright assets of the TV department and the marketing department to be transferred to the new company, mastering certain film and television resources. This was all agreed with Lyman, and he was not afraid of being stopped. So after all the confidants signed the equity transfer contract at a valuation of 600 million, they immediately went through the resignation procedures and invited some people in the circle to join the new company. After that, Charles finally had the final say. As long as he could continue to achieve results, it would be another Lyman Vish Films. This series of changes were all seen by Lyman. He couldn't help but sigh that this guy was really talented, but unfortunately, he didn't want to be inferior to others. At the same time, after throwing all the troubles to Charles, Lyman also began to work on the acquisition. One afternoon, Lyman came to the Vish Films building again. He met with Liam Hayden, the management representative of the distribution department, who was still there. Your current business is to get film sources from overseas at low prices and then distribute them in North America. Lyman turned his head and continued, "How is the profit?" Liam Hayden's old face blushed, but he still nodded and said, "Ahem, it's easy to avoid risks by doing this. Because most of them are low-cost movies, and they are old movies that have been released overseas. There is no need for any publicity and distribution. The price of distribution buyout is also very cheap. After buying a large number of films and directly pushing them into the market, even if only 30% is profitable and 70% is a loss, we can still make a profit. That is to say, if we distribute 10 movies without additional investment, it is very easy to achieve a balance between income and expenditure. Yes. Damn, it's great to have a channel. It's like cutting leaks from a production company. If a production company made 10 movies and couldn't make money for most of them, it would have closed down long ago. It's no wonder that DreamWorks is trying so hard to obtain distribution rights. With such high quality assets as collateral, it is the most reliable backing for a normal film and television company. However, will the profit be high if we keep distributing low budget movies? Liam shook his head, but did not deny it. The profit is not high, but our investment is also very small. Nowadays, too many film companies or directors in overseas countries want to enter the Hollywood market, and they are willing to sell North American copyrights at a bargain price. After all, we have the most complete offline distribution channels here, and DVDs will generate profits in the later stage. In order to make a little more money, those companies are basically willing to cooperate and let companies like us operate a win-win situation. Then if you are handed over to you to distribute first-line productions, do you have the confidence to operate the market potential of the film? Liam smiled bitterly and shook his head. Although everyone who works in the distribution business wants to release blockbusters and make a lot of money, I have also had this idea. But wanting to do it and being able to do it are two different things. I won't hide it from you. With the company's current channel strength, the publicity and promotion are far behind those of large film and television companies. Even if it can be pushed into theaters, the publicity can't keep up and the hype can't be achieved. If you want to operate the market potential of the movie, you must be very pessimistic. For example, even if the quality of the movie is really good, it may not make money. He didn't say the rest, but Lyman understood it. Even movies with good quality and good reputation may not make money, and those movies that are not so good are even less likely to make a profit through operation. Let's take an example. The Blair Witch Project relied on absolute publicity and viral publicity and promotion to become a must-learn case in the history of film marketing. But if this movie is handed over to Liam to operate, even if he can think of this idea, he doesn't have such overwhelming media resources and offline channels to promote it vigorously. Behind most of the magazines and newspapers on the market are subsidiaries held by the parent companies of the 6 majors. That's why the movies released by the big 6 are always the fastest to be hyped. Is it not possible? Lyman frowned slightly. Then in your opinion, how far can the company's distribution strength go? Lyman asked again. Liam said calmly, we don't have the strength to distribute medium-sized productions over 30 million. In other words, for publicity, we have to see if there are works from the big 6 in the market. Otherwise, those newspapers will not give up the entertainment homepage section, and the publicity will not seem to be enough. This is a resource that money can't buy. Unless Lyman also starts to lay out news and newspapers like the big 6 or Lionsgate. But he has no money to acquire Vish Films. He still owes Guzman a bank loan. I understand. From now on, your focus will be on building an online distribution department. The publicity and promotion can be transferred from paper media to online media sites such as Yahoo. As for the distribution of film sources, everything remains the same. Firefly Pictures will also hand over some low-cost productions to you for distribution. Liam breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid that after Vish Pictures was acquired, they would immediately start some first-line productions. If they lost money due to poor publicity, he would have to resign. As for distributing low-cost movies and requiring profits, he is still very confident that he can do it. As for using the internet for publicity and promotion, this is another battlefield that Lyman is optimistic about and should open up. Chapter 414 Enlarged Meeting. Since Lyman took over Lyman Vish Films, he began to sort out the internal personnel relations. Charles left with his people, and the remaining adjustments were very simple. Lyman got the promotion as he wished, and his position went from a single department manager to the head of the company. This is what he deserves. The so-called merit of following the dragon. After the acquisition was completed, in order to give employees more protection, the monthly salary of those who stayed increased to varying degrees, and the management team all increased their salaries by 10%. Of course, as long as these people can prove their abilities, these are all true, and salary increases are not a problem at all. But if they can't keep up with the pace of the company's development. Anyway, the company can't keep idle people. In the office of Lyman Vish Films, Lyman was talking to Lyman, and then waited for Ryan to come with Zack Snyder. Ryan came to discuss the subsidiary. As for Zack Snyder, he came to Lyman to discuss the release of New York Trip. On the way, Lyman was very tactful and left first. Then Lyman looked at Zack Snyder sitting on the sofa opposite him rather stiffly, and couldn't help laughing. Don't worry, I entrusted the distribution to Warner Pictures. They are professional. New York Trip was scheduled to premiere on November 23rd. Due to the lack of publicity and distribution resources, Warner was still approached. Of course, the price paid was that 10% of the film's profits disappeared, and Lyman had to bear half of the publicity costs. The channel really made money, and this was still a friendly price. His attitude seemed very calm. However, Zack Snyder still had a very obvious feeling of gain and loss. After all, this was the first work that could determine whether he could still mix in the film industry. If the performance was not good, he would have to continue to shoot music videos or TV commercials in dejection. If he waited for another opportunity, it would be really slim. In a few days, I will take the main creators to run publicity. I don't know. Zack Snyder scratched his head, his legs and feet trembling a little. I wonder if Mr. Lyman will come to participate in the promotion of the movie. After saying that, his eyes fell directly on Lyman's face. Director Zack Snyder, who had great confidence in his work during filming and editing, still had such an uneasy side as the premiere approached. I'm the producer of the film. Don't worry, I will take time to help support the platform. Lyman gave a very affirmative answer. Director Zack Snyder breathed a sigh of relief, and his expression was much better. He was really too afraid of failure. After more than 10 years of accumulating experience, this was his first step. Not to mention how successful it was, at least it couldn't fail. He coughed to cover up his lack of confidence, and smiled and said, then I'll go back first. I still have to cooperate with Warner for a magazine interview. Director Zack Snyder left. Seeing this scene, Lyman found it more and more funny. You know, after watching the film, the people at Warner thought that New York Trip was very competitive in this year's Christmas season. Of course, anything can happen when it comes to movies. It's not that. If someone is optimistic about it, it will definitely succeed. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many movies failing every year. However, the quality of the movie is the most basic box office boost after all. Have you figured out what's going on here? Ryan looked at Lyman with some curiosity. It's not a big problem. The entire company's framework and personnel have been well preserved. Huh, you did it again. Ryan couldn't help but congratulate Lyman. Haha, we will become stronger and stronger in the future. Lyman was also very happy. In order to get a distribution company with complete personnel and channels, rather than a fragmented film industry, he did pay too much. But all of this is worth it. So what are you going to do now? Ryan said again. I will set up a new company and recontrol the two subsidiaries. I will separate the distribution and production businesses. This is convenient for management. Lyman did not hide it. This may be inevitable. Ryan also agreed with Lyman's idea. For him, he really hopes to see Lyman become more powerful. As for the dilution of equity after the establishment of the new company, he doesn't care much. Ryan is very clear about his abilities. If he can do well as a producer after these 2 years of training and Lyman's advice, he doesn't understand other management matters. Ryan was about to say something when a sound of footsteps outside disrupted the leisurely atmosphere. It turned out that Joseph had brought all the management of Firefly. This afternoon, Lyman is going to hold the first expanded meeting between the two companies. It is also to let the top management of the two companies get familiar with each other. As the only person who holds shares in the company, Ryan's words carry more weight than Lyman. As for the purpose of holding this meeting, it is to convey that the company has its own distribution channel, and the two can complement each other greatly. Then, based on this basis, give certain instructions for the development of the two companies. Everyone can speak, but the agreement or not is still in Lyman's hands. Such good news can make managers feel that the company is becoming more and more promising, which is a good way to prevent the loss of management talents. Lyman did not talk too much nonsense at the meeting, or try to make big promises. For example, what about catching up with DreamWorks in 3 years, and stepping on the 6 majors in 5 years? No matter how many slogans are shouted, they are not as shocking as the actual results. Anyway, the company's growing strength is the most intuitive. Then, Lyman issued 2 more notices. One is that Lyman Vish Pictures will be renamed as Blue Butterfly Entertainment. The second is that the newly established Man Media will hold a controlling stake in Firefly Pictures and Blue Butterfly Pictures. As he spoke, Lyman explained, fireflies are tiny but not insignificant. Their light is weak, but it has the same radiance as the sun and the moon. I hope that in the future, the company will not be controlled by anyone, and will strive to create its own value. As for the Blue Butterfly, everyone who knows it knows that it is the opening animation in the movie, produced by the company, and it is our pursuit of movies. Only after accumulating a lot of experience can a butterfly emerge from its cocoon. Lyman did not explain the name of the parent company, but everyone knows that this is the only name without so many meanings. Among all the people present, except Lyman, only Ryan was full of joy. He felt that this was a testimony to their friendship. It was many years ago when the two met for the first time in college. They got to know each other, became familiar with each other, started to venture into society together, encountered obstacles together, persisted together, enjoyed joy together, and worked hard together. He looked at Lyman, who was sitting in the upper seat. He was very happy that he had such a friend. Of course, Lyman was the same. Taking the names of the two of them to form a company was the most concise expression that Lyman believed in. All of them contained his beautiful fantasy of the future, and time will witness all of this. Chapter 415 Funding. In the spacious conference room, the afternoon sun shines in from the French windows. The management team, who are divided into 2 rows, are listening attentively. It is a very good picture. Everyone has sensed something. After Lyman issued the 2 notices, many people were calculating gains and losses, benefits, and the future. At this time, Joseph, who had basically not spoken, suddenly asked, "So, the production and distribution business has been separated. If there are 2 companies, what should be the status of the parent company? Who should take up the positions in them?" Lyman looked at Joseph in surprise, and found that Joseph had a calm face, but there was some desire in his eyes. As one of the former Columbia Pictures management team, he was transferred to the president of the British branch. He did a very good job in Firefly Pictures, and lived up to his worth. However, it is not a good thing to be promoted too early. If you can't be promoted, you will be beheaded in ancient times. Lyman muttered to himself. Among the people present, only Joseph's status and prestige can be the first to say this. Perhaps Lyman wanted to ask that, but since he had just been promoted to a high position, he probably had some concerns. "I'll arrange it." Lyman didn't want to say anything more, so he smiled and changed the subject. "It's just for the convenience of management. You all need to be more dedicated to your respective businesses." Of course, there was more than one reason for him to do this. He had been thinking about the failure of DreamWorks for the past few days. A powerful film and television company that had no shortage of works, talents, connections, and channels was ruined. Although there was a certain degree of internal discord, and the 3 giants each had their own concerns, and could not work together, the main reason was that they did not have enough stable sources of funds. Just like behind Warner stood Time Warner, behind the Lion stood many European giants and big bankers like Guzman. They would not be hurt because of a few failures. but second-tier companies like Lemon and DreamWorks were not necessarily. But making movies always has risks. In history, there are countless film works that have caused the production company to go bankrupt due to an investment. Cutthroat Island directly bankrupted Carlock, an independent production company that had been a box office success for several years and was finally acquired by MGM at a low price. Cleopatra almost caused 20th Century Fox to close down, and its capital chain was broken. It only recovered by selling its studios and company buildings. Heaven's Gate also led to the bankruptcy of United Artists and was soon acquired by MGM. If New York Trip loses too much money, Firefly Pictures will also have no working capital. In addition, Lemon still owes Guzman more than $108 million. If it fails, it may have to file for bankruptcy protection, which is too unsafe. So Lemon's real idea is to wait until the company grows bigger, and then he can cross-exchange control and equity through Man Media, so that he can use the method of listing subsidiaries to obtain large amounts of funds and find more sufficient sources of funds more easily. But there is no need to explain these too much. When several matters were confirmed, the first enlarged meeting slowly ended. After being vaguely perfunctory, Joseph didn't say anything and left quickly. After the meeting, Lemon took Ryan to have a private conversation. Because of the asset restructuring, the shares held by the two changed again. Among them, the shareholders of Firefly Pictures are Lemon and Ryan. Lemon holds 51% of the controlling rights, and Ryan holds 49%, while Blue Butterfly Entertainment is mostly held by Lemon, with a proportion of up to 95%, and Ryan only 5%. Man Media is Lemon holds 73% and Ryan holds 27%. Ryan didn't quite understand such a complicated setting, but out of trust in Lemon, he also signed the contract quickly. Under the witness of the lawyer, all the information was registered. After leaving the building rented by Blue Butterfly Entertainment, in the underground parking lot, Lemon smiled and said to Ryan, "Maybe in a few years, you will be richer than your father." Ryan's father has more than 400 million yuan in fixed assets, and the benefits of several factories and clothing stores are very good. Let's take it step by step. I think the entertainment industry is too watery. The market value depends entirely on whether someone is willing to spend so much money to buy it. There is too much room for those movie copyrights to fluctuate up and down. Ryan was worried that Lemon's foundation was not solid, so he wanted to expand in a big way. In his mind, there were many places in their company that were not overpriced. If they really went bankrupt and liquidated, 200 million would be high. Unfortunately, with the general environment like this, all entertainment industries are overvalued. Just like the valuation of internet companies, there are no fixed assets at all. If someone is optimistic about it, it is valuable. If no one is optimistic about it, how much can the so-called ideas be worth? But this is the development of the times. How can those who engage in industry make money by selling the prospects of the company? An overpass legend is not something that can be created by doing industry. Driving the car, Lemon took Ryan back to the Firefly Pictures building as usual. After looking at the financial statements, he took another copy of the Los Angeles Daily. With the beginning of the Christmas season, most people in the industry have always focused their attention on the movie market at the end of the year. At the beginning of November, the perverted Pixar animation studios took out another movie, The Incredibles, which occupied the family market as soon as it was released. As an animated film that is mainly aimed at young children and is not without fun, it is very suitable for parents to watch with their children. The film mainly tells the story of the great Superman Mr. Bob, who is unwilling to be lonely after retirement. The 5-year distribution contract established by Disney and Pixar Studios is really profitable. It has only been released for more than a week, and the cumulative box office in North America has exceeded 170 million. It is not much different from the momentum of Finding Nemo released last year. Both are animated films that are expected to get a box office of 300 million. Moreover, in the international market, the cumulative box office in 3 days of release is as high as $45 million. It has set a new record for the international box office in a single weekend in the history of Pixar animation. Disney, as the distributor, is laughing to death. Pixar Studios has a hit every year, but most of the profits every year are taken away by Disney. What is this? What is a working emperor? This is it. The media is also frantically promoting The Incredibles, hoping that the domestic box office can also exceed 300 million. In mid-November, Touchstone Pictures' National Treasure, an action-adventure film in which Nicolas Cage was paid to star, after regaining his status in Bad Guys, premiered. Cage naturally called Lyman a few days in advance to invite him to attend the film. Lyman was still very interested in this commercially successful film and agreed to attend. Chapter 416 Touchstone. Touchstone Pictures is a distribution label under Disney. In 1984, Roy Disney, the last person in power of the Disney family, announced his retirement. It was also in this year that the Disney board of directors paid a heavy price to repel the hostile takeover from Saul Steinberg. Disney paid a 20% premium and bought Saul Steinberg's 11.1% of Disney's total shares for $325 million. Then, under the promotion of the first shareholder, the Bass family, Disney poached Michael Eisner, the president of Paramount Pictures at the time, as the company's CEO. Well, it is reasonable that Disney Pictures, founded by the Disney family, is not the one in which the Disney family has the most shares. After all, in the process of capital accumulation, there will always be problems such as relationships, connections, and funds. Under such troubles, it is normal for equity to be dispersed or even changed. The Touchstone distribution label was the first breakthrough brought about by the new manager Michael Eisner after he took office. Its purpose is to help Disney get involved in the non-child-oriented film market and produce films specifically for adult audiences. In recent years, under the leadership of the new management, Disney has flourished in both animation and live action, and its market value has risen rapidly. The classic film and television copyrights and character images of Disney have been derived into the surrounding markets such as Disney theme parks and dolls, which have also gradually become popular. A gold mine has been developed. Unfortunately, Michael Eisner, the executive who has been pushing all this, has gradually fallen out with the company's shareholders. Because this guy has selfish motives, Disney has used the company's resources to grab some of its own assets during the development process. If his prestige has always been outstanding, it would be fine, and everyone would turn a blind eye. After all, this guy has good management skills. But in recent years, with more power, his temper has also increased, and he has become more unconcealed. First, he fell out with the management of another gold mine, that is, Pixar Studios, and the cooperation relationship between the two quickly dropped to the freezing point. If the 5-year contract had not expired, it would probably have been over. Then, several film projects that he led the investment in suffered losses one after another, such as Haunted Mansion and Divine Star. Each one lost more than the last. There is also a comedy adventure film starring Dajechin, Around the World in 80 Days, which has high expectations. The filming cost is as high as 100 million yuan, and the publicity and promotion cost almost 30 million yuan. In the end, the box office only earned $23.9 million US. This amount of money is not even enough for the publicity and promotion. Michael Eisner is in trouble. Many people are dissatisfied with him. As a result, this kind of thing happened. It is estimated that he will step down soon. Of course, compared with the huge Disney, this loss is just a small matter. It's just more than 100 million, just a small goal. More importantly, it highlights that Michael Eisner is no longer suitable to continue to helm the big ship of Disney. Look, at the end of the year, Disney has another big move. As long as this work sells well, everything will be recovered. This first-line masterpiece they have been preparing for a long time. Not counting the actors' salaries, the special effects and setups in the later stage alone cost more than 50 million. And the gold medal producer Jerry Bruckheimer is there to escort him. Although this fee is very high and a certain investment ratio is required. The leading actors are A-list big names Nicolas Cage and Sean Bean. The two asked for a high price, but their market appeal was worth it. The total expenditure, plus the publicity, cost up to 140 million. In Disney's mind, with such a filming team, Bruckheimer and Cage and Sean, the domestic box office can definitely exceed 250 million. The global box office is expected to exceed 350 million, otherwise even the cost cannot be recovered. The next day, Disney held the premiere at the Hollywood Theater. Disney is still so rich. In addition to the red carpet, there are so many media teams on both sides. With the resources behind them, there are also many stars who come to support them. Premiere. Watching the movie is not the most important thing, but to promote the topic. The surrounding open space has been densely packed with eagerly waiting fans. The first group to arrive was Cage and Diane Kruger. The two held hands and pretended to be intimate. Oh, you can't say pretending. In Disney's publicity, the two fell in love because of the play and are already a couple. As for private matters, who cares? Movie fans can only see what others want them to see. Alas, this is why it is difficult to keep one's true heart in the entertainment industry. It is too common to pretend and get together. Of course, Cage's recent image is very positive. After the divorce, his movies have been big sellers, and his acting skills are impeccable. So-called, there is nothing to criticize about his profession and public morality. In addition, he is single and changes girlfriends frequently. This is not considered a black material in the United States, not even a private morality. Single, willful. Next, Sean Bean, Helen Mirren, Plummer and other veteran movie stars took the stage, and the audiences on both sides cheered. As for Lyman, he took the employee channel. This time when Eva went back to France, he didn't like to walk the red carpet alone. He didn't need this kind of exposure. Cage, who was still smiling at the reporters in the interview area, saw Lyman walking into the hall and couldn't help waving his hand. Unfortunately, he didn't see it. Lyman walked into the hall. The behind-the-scenes team of National Treasure was almost all there, and agencies such as CAA also came to join in the fun. Director Jody Duba was surrounded by a group of people. His expression showed joy and a little bit of elation. The constant compliments and the special flattery of the third-tier artists were really fascinating. Lyman also went to congratulate, and then he met someone from Warner. The person who came was a deputy director of the distribution department, and Lyman still had some impression of him. Mr. Duke. Lyman walked over and greeted him first. Were you invited as well? One of my subordinates was communicating with the person in charge of the Royal Entertainment Cinemas in the Los Angeles area, and he said that the film received a very good response during the internal preview. So, you came to see it in person? Yes. For competitors that are likely to pose a threat, we always have to investigate and leave room for response. Lyman smiled. Trip to New York. How is your publicity plan going? Don't worry, everything is going well. Once the popularity of National Treasure is over, it's time for us to promote it heavily. Duke looked at Lyman. Nearly 10 days, and we've been laying the groundwork for so long. It should be enough. If the results are good, we won't be stingy with the investment in publicity funds. Of course, this is a win-win situation. Lyman smiled. Chapter 417. National Treasure. After chatting with Duke for a few words, Lyman walked towards the back court. Lyman. A voice suddenly called out from behind. Looking back, he saw Cage getting rid of the reporters and walking over quickly. His screen girlfriend Diane Kruger was no longer around him. Looking again, he saw him talking and laughing intimately with Sean Bean not far away. Who is this? Lyman pointed over there. Cage looked in the direction and said with some disdain, that woman is not easy to mess with. If it weren't for the contract stipulating that she must cooperate with Disney's publicity, I would not want to deal with her. Her private life is chaotic? That's not the case. She is too purposeful. I don't like her very much. Could it be that you have been sleeping in this circle for nothing? Lyman teased. You have been very chic in the past 2 years. I have seen a lot of beautiful women in luxury houses in the newspapers. It's not that. It's too utilitarian. Do you understand? Cage shook his head slightly. She is not concealed, and she also uses means. She was a model, and did not systematically study acting, but she was able to break into Hollywood from Germany. This difficulty is not as simple as it seems. I seem to have heard Luc Besson say that she is a very smart woman. In a few years, not only did she successfully transform from a model to an actor, she also entered Hollywood from the French, German and other European film industries, and was able to get the leading role in a first-line commercial masterpiece such as National Treasure. Such rich film resources cannot be obtained by relying on an agency. She's coming. When we met on the red carpet just now, she asked me to introduce her. I didn't nod, nor did I refuse. You should be careful and don't think you can get everything you want without any contact with meat. Cage whispered in her ear. I heard that she was sponsored by a senior executive of Touchstone for this casting. Do you think that kind of person would give such a big benefit just because you slept with her? You came all the way here just to remind me of this? Lemon said seriously. I'm not like you. I like to cause trouble, no matter how big or small. Humph, don't let anyone get hold of anything against you. Once your reputation and image are destroyed, it will be difficult to rebuild them. Cage patted Lemon on the shoulder and watched Diane Kruger approach. He said no more and left quickly. Miss Diane was very beautiful, even more so when she was young. She was wearing a black tulle evening dress with shoulder-length hair draped down naturally. She looked very pure. She walked past Lemon and extended her hand with a smile. Hello, Director Lemon. It's Miss Diane. I wish your new film a big hit. Lemon said politely and gently shook her hand. This touch. She still had a very gentle smile and a very pure posture. But who would have thought that she was gently stroking a man's palm with her fingertips? Interesting, direct and proactive enough. Do teachers teach this when they are models? She still had a smile on her face. After Lemon took back her hand, she said, Thank you, Director Lemon. I hope we can have a chance to work together. Diane Kruger didn't bother to talk for a while. She left consciously after chatting for a few words. She just blinked her eyes at the end, still revealing her thoughts very deeply. Lemon shook his head, found his seat and sat down, and Cage sneaked over again. What did you talk to her about just now? Nothing. Really nothing. I saw that you talked to her very well. Cage also teased. The movie is about to start. Aren't you going back to the crew? Cage slipped away. After a very official interview, director Jody Duber told some interesting stories during the filming. The lights in the screening room slowly went out, and the movie began. In his previous life, Lemon had never seen National Treasure. At that time, he was working hard to watch and review films to lay the foundation for being a director. He was not interested in this kind of overly standardized, three-stage structured assembly line commercial work. But now sitting in the theater, watching the filming techniques of the movie, I feel that I can still learn something. At the beginning, the identity of the protagonist is pointed out, an adventurer who loves archaeology, Ben Franklin Gates. Then there is no need to beat around the bush. The protagonist is revealed, and the main plot is also announced. It is said that the protagonist's grandfather knows a shocking secret. The founding fathers of the United States once buried a huge amount of wealth as a war reserve, and the address of the treasure is hidden in the Declaration of Independence. Well, the setting of the story is a bit magical. However, the audience loves this. Treasure hunting and adventure themes are still very popular in the United States. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Indiana Jones series produced by Spielberg was very popular. There is no need to change too much, just follow the template of Indiana Jones and make some new ideas. In fact, National Treasure does not imitate too much in the image creation of the characters, and the advancement of the plot still seems to be routine. When the joint team sets out to find the treasure, there must be a villain who has the same idea on the way to support the tension of the plot as a hidden line. The two groups of people are fighting each other, and the FBI agent is attracted. With this design, the treasure hunting team composed of the public and the official, justice and the villain, began a journey of wits and courage. The only thing that is still outstanding is that the villain is not very smart. The protagonist group, that is, Franklin played by Cage, is very smart and has a strong reasoning ability. Based on the foreshadowing laid by the screenwriter, he successfully found the location of the treasure. At the end of the climax, the villain jumps out again, giving some suspense, and then it's over. To be honest, this is very popcorn. The rhythm and plot are handled well, the scheduling is also qualified, and the actors are more in line with the character setting. As a commercial film, although it is not so brilliant, it is not wrong. By the way, the protagonist Cage finally found the treasure and handed it over to the country, promoting a patriotic theme. It's pretty good. Those who say that mainland movies always have little pink bridges should also go and watch National Treasure. The movie is over. After watching this movie on the big screen with his own eyes, Lyman is still not interested. However, he knows that Cage's acting career is expected to reach a peak again. What he lacks now is a series of commercial works like Ding Ding to prove his market appeal in many ways. How do you think you acted? After the audience left one after another, Lyman found Cage and couldn't help complaining. What's the matter? Cage was a little confused. He should still be immersed in the joy of the release of the masterpiece he starred in, and he didn't understand what Lyman was asking at all. He tilted his head to look at Lyman and said with some understanding, "This is also the first time I've seen the whole movie. What do you think the box office will be like?" There is only one animated movie on the market that has a high box office, and the two audiences don't overlap much. When it is released tomorrow, it should be very good with a relatively qualified quality of the movie. Chapter 418 Christmas Storm, Part 1. After attending the premiere, Lyman refused Cage's invitation again. He was not going to attend the remaining celebration reception. It was nothing for an outsider like him to go to a gathering of acquaintances in the crew. This also disappointed Miss Diane, who was still hoping that something would happen and get some benefits. The next day, during the Christmas season, when many movies were released, National Treasure relied on the popularity of the actors and its relatively good quality. On the first day of its release, it earned a total of $35.14 million in box office in 3,017 theaters across the United States. National Treasure sold well at the box office on the first day, and the growth trend continued despite the unanimous condemnation of film critics. This was the main news headline of the Hollywood Reporter that day. It was still Nicolas Cage who danced with joy after getting the box office data, and he did not forget to inform Lyman as soon as possible to share his joy. No matter how much the critics criticize it, they say it is extremely mediocre, that you can guess how the film will develop after watching the plot of the first 10 minutes of the movie, and that the plot seems too procrastinated, and there are still some loopholes in the plot setting. If it is put in the ranks of popcorn movies, it is only of average quality. A slightly more objective evaluation is that the film as a whole fully mobilizes the audience's curiosity during the viewing process, and the suspense is well grasped. Of course, the film critic group is the most difficult group of fans in the world to serve. It is better not to listen to everything they say. After all, Lyman knows that Warner, as the distributor of New York Trip, paid a sum of money to criticize National Treasure in order to hit competitors. And the investors behind some works that are being released in the same period will never watch National Treasure buy up the box office market. As the saying goes, cutting off someone's money is like killing their parents. If you don't criticize you, who else can you criticize? In addition, most film critics do not like popcorn movies. Unfortunately, today's audiences are not as easy to fool as before. Even after the ban on Rotten Tomatoes was lifted, the movie's freshness was directly reduced to 63% by negative reviews, which could not prevent the movie from being recognized by the market. On the second day of the screening, that is, close to the early morning, the second day box office revenue of National Treasure was also released $38.54 million. This is the answer given by the market. Calculated from 12 o'clock the day before, the average attendance rate can basically be maintained at about 60%, and only 2 screenings in the morning have earned more than 11 million box office. In the first 3 days of the weekend, it broke the 100 million mark with a very easy attitude, and on Sunday it earned more than $42 million. It shocked many people in the industry. To say that National Treasure is also weird, it is obviously not particularly outstanding in terms of the choice of subject matter or the shooting of the plot, and it has been severely criticized by mainstream film critics, but the box office revenue is ridiculously high. It is a bit abnormal. Why do you say that? Because even the producer of the film, Touchstone Pictures, and the co-promoter, Disney Pictures, never thought that the movie could break 100 million in 3 days. They also made an internal estimate, based on the market prospects, estimating that the box office of the first weekend should be around 87 million, and the local profit will definitely be lower. But now, does the market potential of the movie exist? However, according to Lyman, National Treasure is indeed not worthy of this box office. It is inflated. The reason for the inflated price is still the market choice. Perhaps it is because the summer season this year is a bit too sluggish, and the audience's box office purchasing power is severely suppressed. It was not until this time that the Christmas season was completely released. After all, if you think about it this way, The Incredibles produced by Pixar Studios is also a bit inflated. The quality of this animated film is definitely not as good as Finding Nemo, which can be seen from the awards it won in the future, but its box office once caught up with Pixar's signature animated images such as Toy Story and Under the Sea. If the quality is not really a little worse and the stamina is not enough, it is estimated that the international market box office performance maintained by Finding Nemo has been broken. Speaking of which, this year's summer season is indeed the worst in recent years. All the first-tier blockbusters produced by Warner, Universal, and Fox failed, which can be regarded as filling one of the worst movies of the year. Oh, Warner has too. And this failure may be the reason why the box office market in the Christmas season is getting hotter. As for National Treasure, it is just a beneficiary of such market potential. In the second week, National Treasure still continued to slaughter other movies inhumanely. But the growth of the total box office has slowly slowed down. Disney and Touchstone released more than 2,000 copies in this operation, with a screening schedule of more than 60%, completely squeezing out the living space of other movies. When The Incredibles fell into decline and the market potential was slowly exhausted, the number of screens extracted by the theaters was mostly added to National Treasure, and the number of theaters directly exceeded 4,000. In the market, audiences only have two ways to distinguish movies: National Treasure and other movies. Because the total box office of other movies every day is not as much as National Treasure. What the hell? As for continuing to smear the dark side, there is no longer much meaning. The so-called general trend has been established, and it seems a waste to spend money. After all, the name of National Treasure is on the daily box office champion list every day, and the publicity is simply too strong. I heard that Michael Eisner learned that Disney could make at least more than 100 million in profit from this film, and the news that the gold medal producer Jerry Bruckheimer decided to cooperate with Touchstone to develop the sequel of the film came out. With such a developed goldmine backing him, he seemed to have stabilized his position. Unfortunately, he offended too many people. CAA, Jobs, the major shareholder of Pixar Studios, was one of the projects invested by Jobs when he was kicked out of Apple, and even the board members behind him also had many complaints. This guy has a very tough personality. He could restrain himself a little in the early and middle stages of his tenure at Disney. In the later stages, he was completely a palace fighting king, kicking out many management who didn't get along with him, and offending all the partners. One of the operations that I still can't understand is that he fell out with the hangers-on at Pixar Studios. The reason for actively abandoning a gold mine was simply that Jobs hoped to increase Pixar's share of profits after the 5-year distribution contract ended. This was something that could be discussed properly. However, the deal ended in a quarrel, and Jobs was so angry that he cursed and claimed that he would not continue to cooperate with Disney once the contract ended. Michael Eisner also believed that Pixar relied on Disney's publicity and distribution channels to achieve today's results. Without cooperation with Disney, their animated films would not sell well at all. Well, I can only say that people are old and their brains are not working well. It's so funny to think about Disney begging Pixar to come back in the future. Without Pixar, what achievements has Disney made in the field of animated films? 10 years ago it was The Lion King, and 10 years later it is still The Lion King. It's a great rehash. It has to be said that the foundation left by the Disney brothers is too profound. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419 Christmas Season, Part 2. A few days later, On the evening of November 23rd, the Christmas season was in the middle and late stages, and the box office battle was still one-sided. It was in such a situation that Zack Snyder's debut film New York Trip held a new film premiere at the Chandler Theater. It was not very high profile, and there was no point in being high profile. Now all the news pages have been preheated for so long, and almost everyone who should know the news knows it. Only with results, quality, and reputation can we grab the audience and fans of the Christmas season. Having said that, Warner's face cannot be ignored, and there are still many media friends at the scene. After all, it is a new film invested by Firefly Pictures, and the distributor is Warner. Although the director is a newcomer, he is still well known in the MV and advertising circles. Everyone also wants to know whether he can compete with national treasure Zack Snyder, James Wan, Eva, Jake Gyllenhaal, Dwayne Johnson and several senior executives of Warner's distribution department attended the premiere. After the red carpet and interviews, they sat in a row. Premiere? Let's talk about it first. Director Zack took the microphone and looked around the fans below, feeling a little emotional. After being addicted to the feeling of being watched for a few seconds, he came back to his senses and expressed his gratitude to the media reporters, celebrity actors and crew members who came to support him today. This movie was prepared and started shooting in June. After more than 5 months of hard work and the concerted efforts of hundreds of people, the production of New York Trip was completed. Today is to witness all the achievements. Director Zack seemed very touched, because it was indeed not easy. Carrying the pressure of hundreds of millions of production, it must not be so easy for a director like him who has just entered the film industry. Or, he has been holding it back for more than half a year. Here, I would like to thank director Lyman for his strong support and great trust in me, as well as James Wan, Eva, Jack, the entire filming team, everyone's cooperation. After that, Lyman, as the investor and producer of the film, also said a few words, one to express his expectations for the box office of the film, and the other to praise director Zack's efforts in making the film. 3 years, the people and things he has come into contact with have made it very easy for him to deal with similar situations. Even though some reporters and media keenly noticed some confidence in Lyman's new film's performance, they were curious about it and asked a question. Mr. Lyman, as a zombie apocalypse horror movie, the box office record for a similar plot is still Resident Evil 2, Apocalypse starring Milla Jovovich, which grossed more than $51.2 million in the United States and $78.14 million worldwide. Compared with the cost, it is still a loss in terms of box office level. Why do you have the confidence to invest more than $100 million to shoot such a subject? It seems that this reporter has done his homework. The visitor is not friendly. Lyman chuckled. Then why are they willing to continue investing in the Resident Evil series, which is a failed work? I think no one is a fool, and I heard that Constantine Films is already preparing the script for the third part. With a rhetorical question, the reporter who asked the question earlier was silent. Resident Evil is a box office loss, and the loss is not small. Compared with the shooting cost of more than $45 million, even without considering the publicity and promotion, the global cumulative revenue is only more than $78 million, and at least nearly $35 million has been lost. But their profit methods are different. Why not mention the sponsorship fees of game companies and the huge success of the movie in the offline market? Just on the DVD rental rankings, it can enter the top 20 of the annual list, and the profit can make up for the difference in box office. Not to mention that the audience base of the film market for this type has been increasing, and the potential for growth is huge. The growth rate of each series is huge. As a result, the box office of the third movie was profitable, and the fourth one made a net profit of more than $100 million, and the life of the sequel is still very long. They took advantage of a theme and made 7 films. The value of the entire series must be at least more than $2 billion. What is a gold mine? This is a gold mine. I'm still very confident about this type of subject matter. Just after Lyman finished speaking, another reporter asked, "What is your expectation for the box office?" Of course I hope the more the better, but this also depends on whether the audience supports the film. Can you be more specific? Then $300 million. It must be equal to the investment cost. Lemon thought about it, looked at the reporter calmly, and confidently stated his psychological expectations. 300 million worldwide? No, 300 million in North America. Lemon frowned, thinking that this reporter had no understanding at all. But in the eyes of the reporter, Lemon was so conceited. Overconfidence is conceit. Some media people can't wait to go back and rush to write a press release, wanting to slap Lemon in the face. A zombie horror movie has never made 300 million, not even globally. How can New York Trip do that? When it comes to movies, isn't it all about whether movie fans accept it? Good quality works will naturally be accepted. The premise is that the publicity is proper. Lemon silently added in his heart. Bella has been to almost all the major theaters in Los Angeles recently because of her film review column. Watching movies repeatedly and writing about your feelings about watching movies. If you put your work into your life, it will make you tired. But you have to do it, right? However, she is still very interested in today's premiere. A new film produced by Lemon. The name alone is worth watching. Bella adjusted her sitting posture and took out a small notebook to record. Not far from her, Paul Anderson also sat comfortably in his seat. He is the director of Resident Evil 1 and the screenwriter and producer of the series. After the first film failed at the box office, he found other directors to direct the second film. Unexpectedly, it still flopped at the box office. Although the overall revenue of the film is still profitable, who doesn't want to make more money? The script for the third film is still being conceived, but Paul Anderson, who has suffered consecutive setbacks, lacks some self-confidence. He even doubts whether the Resident Evil series can make a profit solely on the box office. Otherwise the profit is too little and unstable. If it flopped too badly, I don't know if there will be investors to continue to support it. When he learned that a similar blockbuster was released and that Lemon was a golden sign in the market, Paul Anderson watched Trip to New York with a certain mentality of learning from it. Of course, if it fails, he can also learn lessons to avoid falling into the trap. For some reason, seeing Lemon confidently saying that the domestic box office can exceed 300 million, he is very willing to support it. The larger the market for zombie themes, the more beneficial it is for the Resident Evil series. Anyway, zombies are indeed a bit niche in the film industry. Chapter 420 Christmas Season, Part 3. The lights went out, and the surroundings gradually became quiet. In the large theater, Paul Anderson watched the logo of Firefly Pictures appear on the big screen. Blue butterflies, spots of light. Some viewers who had watched the cutscenes could not help but whisper, as if they had memorized such an opening. The screen flashed, and the movie officially began. The background light of the picture was very bright, and a road was blocked by traffic police on duty. A small pickup truck drove from a distance and slowly stopped at the signal of two traffic police who were dressed neatly and wearing chemical protective suits. After a traffic police washed the car body with spray, it was allowed to pass. The pickup truck driver lowered the window and asked with dissatisfaction, "What are you doing? Are you going to kill all the cows and bury them underground again?" The traffic police took off his mask and explained with some dissatisfaction, "It's not foot and mouth disease. It's just that a chemical plant in front leaked something. It's not a big deal." The driver was obviously not satisfied with this answer and said loudly that, "If you want to kill the cattle and sheep on my ranch again this time, I will never let you go." Finally, he drove away after being comforted by the traffic police. The view follows the pickup truck driver. He drove carefully while looking at the road ahead, muttering to himself, "What exactly has been leaked? What these guys say is too unreliable." Just as he was complaining, the ringtone rang and someone called. The man reached for the phone in his pocket. Suddenly, the car hit something and made a strange noise. The man quickly stepped on the brakes. On the road, it was a deer, and the deer was bleeding a lot. The man obviously knew what he had just hit. He didn't care about the deer's body, but checked the damage to his pickup truck. After finding that there was only a dent near the front of the car, the man returned to the driver's seat and sighed at his bad luck. The man drove away quickly. What he didn't know was that the deer's body struggled strangely after a while. The posture was twisted and did not conform to common sense. First the hind legs, then the front legs, and then the head with a broken spine. The deer actually stood up slowly, and with the low drum beats, there was an indescribable weirdness. It was so frightening that the heart seemed to be held before it continued to beat violently. The deer only had the whites of its eyes. The director even gave a close-up. Hiss. There was a sound of people sucking in air at the scene. Paul Anderson also seemed very interested. He didn't expect that a zombie movie could use such hints to reveal the spread of the virus. Especially the mutation of the deer. The foreshadowing was so good. I'm a little scared. A young female audience member was sitting in front of Paul Anderson, and she sought comfort. Then the male companion next to her took her hand and said confidently, "I'm next to you. Don't be afraid." The camera turned. On the upper floor of a business building, Jack, played by Christian Bale, was sorting out documents. He was engaged in securities trading, and recently he was helping a chemical plant conceal the news of the spread of experimental gas according to the order of his boss. Because they held a lot of shares of the chemical plant, if the chemical plant was boycotted because of a small trouble, the investment would become waste paper. They joined hands with the media department and have been dealing with this accident. Anyway, it must not affect the stability of the market. After Jack ordered his men to suppress all the news, he suddenly asked his assistant what toys children would like recently. The camera turned to a newspaper on the table and gave a close-up of the news photo on the main page. It was a fish pond with a large number of dead fish floating on the water. Not far from the fish pond, a construction sign appeared. That was the chemical sign that the traffic police set up at the beginning and said it was a chemical leak from the chemical plant. It was exactly the same as the sign on the gate of the chemical plant that the driver saw on the road at the beginning. The news they suppressed couldn't be this. The animals around the chemical plant are all dying, and the news is being concealed. The government also knows about it. Didn't you hear that guy say that he reported to the state legislator on the phone and said that it would be solved immediately? The same recurring signs, as well as the dead and resurrected deer, have made the audience begin to realize that the spread of the virus has been going on for a long time, and all the situations in the process have been concealed by the male protagonist's company in cooperation with the state government, the media, and the senior management of the chemical plant. The reason is just for personal gain. After all, if the news gets out, the chemical plant will definitely be boycotted and closed down, which is what the state government, the senior management of the chemical plant, and many investors who hold stocks do not want to see. Because the tax revenue and economic value generated by the chemical plant are not bad. The movie continues. In the underground parking lot of the company, Jack received a call. A woman's voice came out, "Okay, let's not use troublesome things like lawsuits." Jack said indifferently, "Whether it's a lawsuit or something, just go ahead, I will take care of Angie." "Can you take care of children?" The woman was a little disdainful. "Have you ever been with children? Every day you are either working or socializing. Where do you have time to take care of them?" "Forget it. Angie said she will come to see me tomorrow. You can bring her over." "Tomorrow?" "No. Tomorrow is Angie's birthday. You won't forget it, right?" "No." Jack hung up the phone. It was already late when he drove back home. He pushed open the door of the child's bedroom, and she was hiding in the bed and talking on the phone. He hoped that, if he took the train alone, his mother would go to the train station to pick her up. Jack felt uncomfortable listening to it at the door and deliberately knocked on the door. Angie heard the noise and quickly hung up the phone. Then she covered her body with the quilt, revealing her little head. Her eyes were a little scared. Jack sat beside Angie's bed, feeling a little distressed. "It's okay, you can continue chatting." Angie replied weakly, "I've hung up. You're going to New York to see your mother tomorrow, right?" "Angie, Dad has been very busy at work recently, so I'll take you there next week, okay?" Angie said nothing. Jack turned around and took out the gift he bought. "Here you go." He apologized with a bitter smile. "Do you think I forgot? Happy birthday to you." Angie took the gift and didn't open it. Jack urged, "What's wrong? Don't you want to open it and take a look?" Angie looked at the box and then looked forward. There was also a similar toy box there. "I bought it on Children's Day this year." Obviously, Jack also saw it. He couldn't remember if he had bought the same toy before, so he had to say, "Well, just tell me if you want anything." Angie said firmly. New York. I want to go to my mother. Tomorrow is my birthday. Chapter 421 Christmas Storm, Part 4. Will this be the hidden plot of the movie? Bella looked at the big screen and took notes in her notebook. She didn't think the director would portray a useless plot. The lack of companionship made the child too indifferent and fearful of his father. The family line. Well, it should be very useful for the promotion of the plot. As a professional film critic, Bella was not scared by the weird shot of the deer at the beginning, and her mind was still immersed in the story. The colors of the picture brightened again. In the slightly depressed mood of the audience, Jack apologized and promised Angie to take her to her mother tomorrow. During the day, at the train station, the radio is playing, "Attention, passengers, at 12:30, the UTX train to New York Central Station will depart. On the train, there is a team heading to New York to participate in a baseball game, including the cheerleader played by Rihanna and the baseball player played by Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay." Then the camera gives another car to two elderly women, one of whom peels a boiled egg, and the other complains about why she brought it on the train, and says she is not hungry. In a car with less traffic, the pretty Angie is being led by Jack to find a seat. The camera sweeps one by one, and there is another group portrait. Suddenly, the low drum background music sounded again. When the train was about to start, a beggar with ragged clothes and a dirty face rushed into the toilet from the aisle, hid in the corner, and kept shaking, as if he was afraid of something. At the other end, a young girl with loose hair and unclear face was seen holding the aisle and stumbling into the car. She kept making painful cries and kept turning her head to look at the station behind her, as if she was afraid that something would catch up with her. The train started slowly. Angie looked through the window and suddenly saw that there seemed to be some chaos in the waiting hall on the second floor. She wanted to tell her father, but she saw that her father was busy calling his colleagues, so she didn't bother him. In the carriage, the girl who had just behaved a little abnormally sat on the toilet in the bathroom, mumbling an apology. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I did it wrong, I did it wrong." There was blood on her legs, and the blood vessels on the exposed surface of her skin seemed to be stained purple. The girl cried and broke down emotionally. She pulled a plastic rope very hard and tied it around her knees, as if to stop the blood flow. Suddenly, she began to cough up blood. The camera turned and returned to Angie's perspective. She was sitting in her seat and flipping through the magazines prepared on the train, and her father had been resting with his head down since he finished the phone call. After a while, Angie heard a passenger in front complaining to the train manager that there was a person in the toilet who had not come out for almost 20 minutes. "I don't know what you are doing, it's very suspicious," said the passenger. Angie was bored, and when he saw the train conductor made it clear, he secretly got up and ran out. "Is anyone there? Is anyone there?" The conductor began to knock on the toilet door. After the reminder was ineffective and there was no response, the conductor took out the key to unlock it. The door opened, and it was the beggar who was particularly hurried when he first got on the train. He muttered in his mouth, curled up in a ball, and was still trembling with fear. Angie came over, and the conductor took a look and said nothing, but kept reminding, sir, excuse me, I need to confirm the ticket." The beggar ignored him. The conductor said again, "Sir, if you don't have a ticket, you have to get off at the next stop and follow our instructions." The beggar finally came back to his senses, with sweat on his forehead and fear in his eyes, and he kept repeating one sentence, "All dead, all dead." "What? Sir, what did you say? All dead?" He also forced an ugly smile. Afterwards, no matter how the conductor persuaded him, this person was unwilling to go out to the toilet. Angie just watched silently. "Are zombies appearing? There must be a bigger problem with the gas leak in the chemical plant," some viewers discussed in a low voice. Everyone knows what all these suggestive clues are revealing. As for Paul Anderson, he has long been immersed in the plot. He thinks this kind of montage, the way of interweaving multiple perspectives to advance the plot, can create better suspense. At first, he thought that the movie would quickly explain the setting of zombie virus, just like Resident Evil, revealing the background of the movie first. But who knows that the director's technique is very delicate, portraying the desired main line through multiple angles of hints, but not making it clear. This has a kind of decryption and suspenseful atmosphere. If you don't watch it carefully, it feels like a loss to miss a little plot. For a movie, it is really a great benefit to be able to keep the audience's attention. Unfortunately, the Resident Evil series already has its own worldview and cannot copy such techniques. However, some cutscenes can still be learned. Then the young girl who collapsed earlier came out of the toilet staggeringly with ropes wrapped around her. A female crew member noticed that the passenger was not in a good condition. She first used the intercom to alert her colleagues and hurried over. Before she arrived, the girl could not hold on and fell in the aisle of the carriage. The passengers next to her were a little agitated, worried that the girl had an acute illness, and hurriedly asked the female crew member for answers. Some of the smarter ones went to notify the conductor. The passengers in the carriage were very concerned about this matter. If the female crew member had not asked to leave some space to prevent breathing problems, everyone might have gathered around. The girl lying in the aisle was twitching, and a similar black and purple color appeared on her face, and the capillaries showed a very wrong picture. Passenger, are you okay? Passenger, what should I do? The female crew member supported the girl's shoulders and did not know how to rescue her for a while. She had to stay where she was and wait for the conductor to arrive to prevent the situation from getting worse. There is a patient in carriage 11 who needs emergency treatment. Her condition is very bad. The female crew member called for help over and over again on the intercom. The camera turned again, and Jack's mobile phone in the inner pocket of his suit vibrated, disturbing his light sleep. He took out his cell phone, but found that Angie, who was sitting next to him, was missing. On the phone, his subordinates reported that the situation at the chemical plant could no longer be suppressed because a serious riot broke out. The assistant kept asking what to do. At this moment, the TV installed in the train compartment seemed to verify the assistant's words. A large group of police and paramedics were dispatched, and the streets were full of injured people who were carried on stretchers. Jack comforted his assistant and hung up the phone. He also felt something was wrong and was afraid to go find Angie. Chapter 422 Christmas Season V. Boom, boom, boom. The train was moving fast on the track. In the number 11 carriage, the girl's mind could no longer suppress the zombie virus. Her body twisted and twitched constantly, as if she was slowly being contaminated, and the process was firm and unstoppable. She looked at the female passenger who was still calling for help. Her mouth opened a little, and a low howl like a beast came out of her throat, accompanied by a crackling sound from her bones all over her body. Hehe. The female passenger heard the movement and turned back in fear, but found that the girl was standing in a twisted posture, with obvious bite marks on her right calf. The girl's pupils were strangely white, and her desire for flesh and blood made her show her neat, white teeth. The sound of biting flesh and blood, the snapping sound of biting off the throat. Some passengers who had not yet left their seats saw this scene in disbelief. The girl was lying on the back of the female passenger, biting hard. The direct feeling brought by the blood made the passengers in the carriage scream in fear. But in the narrow aisle and the crowded fleeing crowd, many people were still caught up and infected. If the virus eats into the brain, will it turn into a zombie? The second one was bitten on the neck and it only took 7 or 8 seconds to get infected. Wow. The passengers in other carriages wanted to come and watch the fun, but they didn't run away. Others didn't know something was wrong. I'm scared. It's too scary. With a lot of profile shots of the workshop hell, Jack finally found something wrong. From time to time, people shouted and fled in emotional breakdown. He found Angie and saw zombies rushing over, so he quickly closed the isolation door between the carriages. A pregnant woman ran over and wanted to escape, but the people behind the door were afraid and no one lent a hand. The zombies were still approaching this side, and a strong man was also running towards this side. From time to time, he turned around and used miscellaneous items such as suitcases to block the zombies behind him. Seeing that the door was not opened, he pulled it hard. There is a monster. Close the door quickly. The passengers screamed in fear, but the strong man still squeezed in with his pregnant wife and turned around to close the door. The zombies began to crowd over here, but they didn't seem to know how to form the strength to push the door. Jack guessed that these monsters would rush over when they saw people, but they didn't have much wisdom. They acted on instinct and were thirsty for flesh and blood. The pregnant woman played by Eva picked up a bottle of water and splashed it on the door and covered it with newspapers, magazines and other papers. The zombies finally stopped being irritable and calmed down, as if they had lost their vision. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The train company executive played by Peterman pulled the crowd apart and walked over. His face was still very panicked. He asked in a panic, What are these monsters?" He looked around, and no survivor could answer his question. Jack was comforting Angie, and the strong man patted his shoulder. "What's the matter?" Jack turned around. "Shouldn't you explain it to me?" Dwayne Johnson grabbed Jack. "You bastard. People are right in front of you, but you don't open the door. What do you mean?" As he said that, he wanted to hit him. Jack was not polite and also grabbed the strong man. "What do you mean? Are you the only one in danger?" Jack was very confident. This made the strong man laugh. He looked at Eva and said to himself, "There are such scumbags." The strong man pulled Jack hard and wanted to throw him back to the car on the zombie side to let him taste the feeling of being besieged by monsters. Eva hugged Johnson. "Enough. Everyone is like this because of fear." However, after the conflict subsided, the moment Jack lowered his head, the audience clearly saw that he had no guilt at all. Interesting. Bella sat up a little straight and felt that the character of the protagonist was not as great and glorious as in ordinary movies, but selfish to the point of being real. Or do movies like to portray human nature? The movie continues. A group of survivors stayed in the car. The train executives questioned the conductor why he didn't stop at the next station and use their identities to force the train to stop. As soon as possible, a bunch of monsters who didn't know whether they were human or ghosts would bite anyone they saw. How could they stay in the same train with monsters? Then many passengers called their relatives outside, but most of them lost contact. The panic spread further. Many people had collapsed and cried. Jack also called his mother and heard suppressed wailing on the phone. He seemed to know something. His mother repeatedly emphasized taking care of Angie and finally hung up the phone. "What's wrong with Grandma?" Angie felt something was wrong and asked. Jack forced himself to raise his emotions and comforted her. "Grandma is waiting for us at home." The train began to slow down, and through the window, you can see that a riot has also occurred at this station. Some people were thrown down with blood. Some people noticed the passengers in the train and asked for help. The zombies chased their prey swiftly and were carrying out a one-sided massacre. Blood, living humans. The sun was shining, but there was no warmth, which made the survivors of the same kind feel cold. The depressing background music weakened, symbolizing the psychological defense line of the survivors. The camera pulled to the outside of the station. Car accidents, riots, and killings are the themes here. The voiceover of the radio interrupted. "Dear citizens of the United States of America, the day before yesterday, violent demonstrations broke out in many cities including Los Angeles and Chicago, resulting in a large number of casualties among citizens and police. The chaos caused by the demonstrations temporarily paralyzed some parts of the city. Fortunately, due to the timely response of the government, the violent demonstrations have gradually weakened, and it is estimated that they will end in a short period of time. In this vicious incident, there are a lot of false news spreading. Please do not waver, maintain your trust in the government, stay at home as much as possible, stick to your respective posts, and work together to solve this incident. The safety of all citizens will not be threatened." In the carriage, the atmosphere is still depressing. The train passed through 2 stations without stopping at all until it was about to reach the Brooklyn area of the terminal station, New York Central Station. The conductor received a message saying that the New York police were dispatched to protect the traffic line, and then slowly slowed down and stopped, and informed the remaining passengers through the in-car radio. When everyone got off the train carefully and evacuated towards the exit of the station, fantasizing about welcoming the protection of the army and letting go of their hearts, they saw a group of infected soldiers chasing after them. Everyone was terrified. Those who had walked the fastest died the fastest. The stairs were crowded and trampled, and there were countless casualties. Jack was carried away by the crowd due to the sudden chaos and accidentally got separated from Angie when he was running away and was almost bitten by a zombie. Chapter 423 Christmas Storm, 6th. At the critical moment, Mr. Beggar rushed out from the side and saved Jack's life. The two continued to flee. Jack was busy looking for Andy, and his daughter was a child after all, so she ran slowly. After a while, she was caught up by several zombies. Just when she was about to be bitten, the strong man bravely took action. With an elbow, he knocked the zombie down, hugged Angie and ran towards the train. And it was also thanks to the strong man, Jack, and the young guy from the baseball team who blocked the glass door of the station entrance and exit passage, which bought a lot of time for the remaining survivors who escaped. The train that stopped again could start smoothly, but unexpectedly, there were still many passengers who had not boarded the train. The old man in a suit, who was a senior executive of the train, urged the conductor to start the train. He was furious to cover up his fear. Let's go, let's go. Do you want to kill us? The conductor pushed him away. There are still people who haven't come on board. After that, he waved to the survivors who were fleeing. Hurry up, this way. Almost all the people on the train had arrived, and the zombies also surrounded them. The suit executive questioned the conductor again. How long are you going to wait? Aren't you going to leave yet? The cheerleader played by Rihanna on the side heard it and begged, no, we can't start. My friends haven't boarded yet. Hey. The suit executive pushed her away. At least the people inside should be alive. Are they going to die together? Right? He pulled the conductor to ask again. No one of the survivors around refuted, but no one agreed. It was like a spectator, because they couldn't say such selfish and ruthless words, but they acquiesced in their hearts. Even if those people chose to stay behind for them, they were all helped. The cheerleader kept shaking her head and begging, and the conductor gasped like an asthma patient. This is a very difficult choice, but there are enough reasons to do it, right? In the silent atmosphere, under the urging of the suit executive, he made up his mind. The protagonist group left behind was abandoned. There were 8 left, and only 3 escaped in the end. As the train slowly accelerated, the sturdy man took the explosion-proof shield and used brute force to attack the zombie group. 3 people got on the number 8 carriage of the train. Everyone dispersed, and the sturdy man called Diva and learned that they were not with the main group, but were blocked by zombies in the number 13 carriage. Next, there is a scene depicting the protagonists bravely saving the pregnant wife and daughter. It was tense and exciting to break through the blockade of the zombie group and go from the number 8 carriage to the number 13 carriage. This scene is to enhance the sense of pleasure and soothe the audience's emotions. It cannot blindly portray the dark side of human nature, otherwise the movie will be too deep and not interesting enough. In short, after the very imaginative and artistic shots, the audience is no longer so worried, and the rhythm drops from high to low. Hero saves beauty, the reunited protagonists are happy. But on the other hand, after the cheerleader received the news that the person she secretly loved was still alive, she wanted everyone to let go. My friend is in the car over there, and he's coming over here now. Carriage 13 is the protagonist group, and car 15 is the majority of the survivors. There are several people trapped in the toilet of car 14. Who's coming over? The executive in a suit asked. My friend. He just saved someone, and he's coming over now. Save someone? The executive in a suit questioned. From over there to here? Passing through those monsters in the middle? Not hurt at all? Are you sure you're not infected? Are you sure you're not infected? He raised his voice and shouted, as if venting his cowardice and fear. Look at these people. There are not just 1 or 2 people who are not sure about the life and death of their family members, but with just one word from you, you let them in without knowing whether they are infected or not. He was emotionally unstable and seemed to be laughing and crying. This acting skill is perfect for playing a villain. Everyone was still silent, and the executive in a suit slumped in his seat, letting the girl beg everyone to let him go. But all he got was silence. After going through hardships, the protagonist group rushed to car 14 and shouted for help through the door. The zombies were about to gather around again, and the strong man cooperated with Jack to block the door with their bodies. Eva held Angie's hand, anxiously worried. The baseball man shouted the name of the cheerleader. The beggar and a woman slowly despaired. Only a car door separated them, but it seemed like a chasm in the sky. The large army was over there, locking the car door heavily with ropes and seals, and asked someone to cover the cheerleader's mouth and not respond. Time passed by minute. After all, there were too few people. Too many old and weak protagonists, and they couldn't stand it. At this moment, the strong man stood up again. Even if the zombies bit his arm, the strong tearing pain did not let him let go. His body was firmly blocked in the middle, and his two hands grabbed the connection of the car door on both sides, using his flesh to block the zombies, and bought a little more time. Eva covered her mouth in pain and shed silent tears. The baseball man finally smashed the car door glass with a baseball bat, and the executive man in a suit sighed inwardly that he was crazy and wanted to organize people to stop them. But it was useless. Jack, Eva and Angie also broke through the defense line. However, the strong man, the beggar and the woman were all unable to get through. They could defeat 6 cars of zombies, but they were defeated by a car of human hearts. It was indeed ironic. The camera was given to the woman who complained to her sister at the beginning that she didn't bring eggs on the car. She had been sitting in her seat because she and her sister were separated in the turmoil just now, and her sister's life and death were unknown. But at this moment, what did she see? Her sister was not dead and was being blocked outside at the door. Haha, she was blocked outside by everyone. Jack punched the executive in a suit hard in the face. Why do you do this? Why? He looked fierce, questioning and roaring. They could have come in. Madman, crazy man. The executive in a suit shouted. They must have been infected. Look at his eyes and the blood on his body. They will become monsters in a while. We should drive them away. The survivors retreated in fear, and some began to respond to the call. Go. Get out. Get lost. The minority obeyed the majority. Eva was already crying. The abuse, questioning, and the sacrifice of her husband gradually destroyed the psychological defenses of a pregnant woman. Jack, the baseball man, and she were still rushed to car number 16 under the urging of the crowd. The door was locked. What no one noticed was that a woman was looking at the zombies behind the door and talking to herself. Like a fool, with that kind of moral character, always living a hard life. What for? What an idiot. She looked back at the crowd maintaining order and cried, a bunch of scum. Chapter 424 Christmas Storm, Part 7. Sister, you've worked hard. A woman opened the car door with tears in her eyes. Perhaps, it is the most terrifying when people who have nothing to worry about go crazy. In the helplessness of the executive in a suit yelling, stop her, the zombies are out of the cage. The sister who has always complained about her sister sold her life and wanted to drag a car of people to be buried with her. The sudden turn of events made the whole cinema scream. Even with the cheerful background music and the dramatic plot like oil paintings presented in slow motion, the extreme madness slowly permeated. Seeing the woman actively hugging her sister, accepting her bite, and even showing a happy, reunited smile, the pain and cruelty made everyone shudder. Honest people are also angry. Just like a spring that has been suppressed to the extreme, the force of the explosion will also be unforgettable. For Bella, the choice of the survivors and the choice of the woman and the changes before and after the protagonist Jack are explaining a truth from different angles. Never forget to control people's hearts, seek the recognition of the majority, and ignore the minority. If you abandon too many people, it will be your turn. Jack is like a thread, connecting two completely different camps. He was the majority at first, and he could abandon pregnant women and strong men, and he did not feel wrong. For Angie, he became a minority and was abandoned. The latter dramatically confirmed the former, forming a very bad cycle of human nature, and the result was that more and more minorities were sacrificed, and hope was shattered bit by bit. The ownership of the right to speak and the ownership of the truth were cruelly interpreted in a montage way, and a background of doomsday zombies was set, which was highlighted step by step. Awesome. The grasp of this rhythm and plot promotion not only appears mature, but also shows more delicacy, details, and just the right control. After the woman pushed open the car door, she was the first to be torn to pieces, but the executive in a suit was still alive. He followed the conductor to hide in the toilet and locked the door to prevent others from entering. Jack comforted Angie and then received a call from his assistant. He told Jack in it that the Manhattan area of New York and the surrounding blocks of Wall Street had been cleared by the army and he could go there to seek support. Then, it was a very painful fact. The source of this riot is likely to be the chemical plant that their firm is protecting. In fact, Jack already has some associations. After it was truly confirmed, it was still a little hard to believe that he was also one of the executioners behind the scenes and the umbrella of all these disasters. In the face of many evidences, such as gas leaks and abnormalities of animals around, Jack hung up the phone speechlessly. He turned on the faucet and washed his face to wipe away the tears of regret. Then, the story entered another stage. First, at the penultimate station from the terminal, the railway that their train needed to travel on was damaged and needed to be transferred. The train driver used the radio in the car to inform the news. Jack and others could only get off the train and continue to a more central location in New York. The group walked carefully while checking the quiet environment around them. On the other side, the executive in a suit also wanted to get off the train. He turned his head to listen to the movement outside and told the conductor that the zombies outside might have left and the two of them escaped together. But as soon as the door was opened, he pushed the conductor away, attracted most of the zombies with the movement of his fall, and fled alone in a hurry. After being betrayed, the train conductor was soon surrounded by zombies. Bitten and in pain, he looked at the figure of the executive in a suit with great resentment as he disappeared around the corner. Once, twice, he also tasted the feeling of being torn apart. In the shrill and desperate voice, another life was completely lost. More and more people were killed indirectly by the executive in a suit. His hands were stained with blood, and he no longer hesitated. Unlike at the beginning, when he always used words to guide people to do what he thought was right, he was now more accustomed to using actions. This undisguised directness clearly outlined his animal nature. During the escape, he was surrounded by a group of zombies again. Another train was driven by the driver. In the cab, he waved his hands vigorously, signaling everyone to hurry up. But the executive in a suit twisted his foot, and he shouted for help. The driver didn't know what happened in the carriage. He hesitated for a moment, but still resolutely went to rescue. He supported the man in a suit and ran towards the train. But with one person being a burden, neither of them could run fast. Finally, the man in a suit was bitten. At the moment of biting, he grabbed the driver again and pushed him to the zombies. One life for another, he got on the train while the zombies were enjoying the driver's flesh and blood. The protagonists were also avoiding the pursuit of the zombies. Among them, the baseball man and the cheerleader who had a crush on him were separated because of a little accident and faced death calmly. The audience at the scene was once again moved by the love between the baseball man and the cheerleader, staring at the big screen intently, and only breathed a sigh of relief when the remaining three people, Jack, Angie, and Eva, got on the train. The zombie group, like a torrent, almost pulled the train to a stop, which aroused the audience's strong visual appreciation. Until Jack kicked away the zombie fulcrum dragged by the train with his feet. The whole twists and turns also made the audience watch it with great excitement. Under the setting sun, the train drove smoothly towards the encirclement of the army. However, just when Jack and others saw the dawn of rescue, the executive in a suit, who had just been bitten on the ankle by the zombies, was slowly infected in the cab. "Sir, I'm scared. Can you take me home? I really am. My mom is waiting at home. Point save me." The pupils of the man in the suit turned white, and he kept begging. This is the most ironic. He has harmed so many people, and he has not escaped the judgment of infection. In order to protect his daughter and Eva behind him, Jack can only choose to stand up. In the fight and entanglement, the man in the suit fell off the train, and Jack was bitten, and chose to jump off the track to commit suicide. The protagonist died. The audience in the theater, who was still very lively and thought the ending was satisfactory, suddenly became quiet. They were a little confused by such a change, and then there was a wave of dissatisfaction and scolding. "Are you kidding me? The protagonist died just like that? It's a tragedy that he died. He didn't die in the crisis of so many zombies, but died before the safety line. What are the screenwriter and director thinking? How can you kill the protagonist like this?" Some people who have watched a lot of movies are also expressing their opinions. In Lyman's movies, it's rare for the protagonist to have a happy ending. Not being wiped out is good enough. I'm used to this kind of plot. At least Jack died to protect the weak, so his death was tragic. Another protagonist died. Tears welled up in my eyes. Chapter 425 Christmas Storm, 8th. light and shadow and drama, dissatisfaction and acceptance, reversal and reality. Although there was a warning, it also laid the foreshadowing of the man in the suit being bitten and hiding in the cab. But more audiences are looking forward to it because no one wants Jack to die, even though he was very selfish and a member of the scum before, but he was whitewashed by his bravery and his responsibility. But he still died in an ironic and cruel way and died together with the scum man in the suit. Bella couldn't help but open her mouth slightly. Although she had expected that the development of the story would require a more emotional climax, she didn't expect it to be this way. At the moment when there was the most hope of being rescued, the most unexpected result occurred. She listened to the venting of the audience around her, but she was sighing at the success of the movie. If the audience can't get into the play, can't follow the development of the plot, if the audience is not strongly attracted by the movie, they will not care about the death of a certain character. This is the case where the protagonist group is left behind. The sacrifice of the strong man and the beggar to buy time is also the case. The love between the baseball boy and the cheerleader is also the case. Until Jack's death, all the accumulated emotions were vented together. It is a success for a movie to enjoy such emotional expressions from the audience. The movie is still going on. After the audience cursed a few times, no one left the theater. They watched the next plot intently. On the train, the joy of being rescued suddenly became empty. Eva covered her tears and hugged Angie at a loss. The figures of the two people seemed so helpless, small, and fragile on the high-speed train. Watching Angie's collapse and crying, watching Angie's wailing and shouting, watching Angie's silence after the extreme pain, Eva couldn't comfort her. Who would comfort her? The camera seemed to freeze at this moment. The static and endless long shot was motionless, accompanied by sentimental music to further arouse the audience's tear glands. Finally, the train was about to enter the central station in New York, which was the last stop in the end, but the railway was destroyed by humans. Eva held Angie's little hand and walked forward along the road. When the audience found that the back was full of military firepower deployment points, they were afraid that the director would mess up again and really wipe out the whole group. The sniper's target was already aimed. Someone couldn't help but pray, "Don't. Is the director so cruel? Don't shoot, don't shoot." Eva didn't notice and continued to lead Angie forward. When this scene was shown, Angie sang a song. This is an English nursery rhyme. Most people in the United States will have heard it when they were young. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. The song is called Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star. This song appeared twice in the film. Once when Jack gave Angie a birthday present, she sang this song in her school performance, but she didn't finish it. At this moment, Angie sang it again, adding a bit of sadness to the movie. The person who heard her sing this song at the beginning is gone. It was also because of this song that the soldiers put down their sniper rifles. The movie has ended at this point. It is a very blank ending. Before the audience had time to think about the significance of the plot design of the last section, they saw a series of subtitles on the big screen. Director, Zack Snyder. Screenwriter, Lemon/Jonathan. Editor, Zack Snyder. Art director, James Wan. Executive producer, Lemon. In the different eyes, Lemon's name seemed to have a different weight. But at this moment, the success belongs to Zack. At the premiere, the audience did not hesitate to applaud. Although the deaths of Jack, the baseball man, and others made many people feel uneasy, there is no need to doubt the quality of the whole movie, which made everyone thoroughly invested and enjoyed it. Paul Anderson sat in his seat and applauded silently, still thinking about the details and plot arrangements of the movie in his heart, and he appreciated New York trip more and more. He found that there were too many things to learn from this movie, and he also had some ideas about the construction of the next Resident Evil series, and felt that he had gained some truth. The applause lasted for more than 2 minutes. Whether it was the fans, the journalists, or the invited guests, judging from their attitudes, the movie was a success. Thank you everyone. Director Zack walked to the stage gratefully and bowed to everyone. Then, they chatted for a few more words before organizing the crowd to leave. Then, Lemon invited some guests to a banquet hall prepared by Warner. The social night had just begun. Congratulations to director Zack. The movie is first rate. Lemon, please be merciful. I feel that the movie you invested in will be a success again. Cage patted Lemon on the shoulder. Alas, I didn't expect that the two of us would have to compete. Even if I didn't, there would be others. The rules of the market are like this, so it's better for me to come. Lemon also joked. National Treasure has won the weekly box office championship for 2 consecutive weeks. The box office in North America alone has accumulated $198 million. It is difficult to lose money. I didn't expect a zombie movie to be so exciting. It's such a meaningful work. Why don't you invite me to play a role? I'll do it, even if I reduce my salary. Cage said again. Please, you were going to star in National Treasure at that time. Where would you find the time? Where would you find the time? If you were to make a cameo, I wouldn't want to trouble you too much. I'd have to travel back and forth. Lemon really thought so. Otherwise Cage would be very suitable for the role of the beggar. After all, Hollywood actors with a little professional ethics are unwilling to act, which is disrespectful to creation. The bigger the star, the more so. Thank you, thank you. Director Zach was a little drunk, and his steps were unsteady. After someone sent him back to the hotel, Lemon took a glass of wine and went to find Warner's distribution director Clean. How's it going? Will there be any problem with the copies tomorrow? Don't worry, a total of 2,200 copies are already in place. Clean picked up his glass and clinked it with his own, then continued, judging from the audience's reaction, the first day's results should be very good. I would also like to thank Warner for helping with the promotion and distribution, and for helping arrange the screenings. I'll leave it to you to maintain the popularity of the movie in the future. Lemon said sincerely. Since he had a distribution company, he has become more familiar with the distribution business. The more he knows, the more he understands how outstanding Warner's promotional capabilities are. His own Blue Butterfly picture still has a lot to learn. If we can make a splash tomorrow, I will ask the board of directors to allocate most of the resources to focus on pushing Trip to New York. This is a win-win situation, and I hope to have more cooperation in the future. I'm sorry to trouble you with this. Anyway, we will definitely support and cooperate with the promotion and distribution, and we can also mobilize funds at any time. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.